Got the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block. Helmets, casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Take your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the 2020 season of Geek's Vegas Lines NFL, DFS, and Betting Angles Breakdown. My name is Kevin Allen. I am your host. I'm joined by John, Statsational Alessia, sports gambling and DFS aficionado. What's up, John?
What's going on, man? I love the intro.
All right, you loving that song, man?
I feel young. I feel like I need to open up a TikTok account or something and dance or something. I don't know. Is that what they do?
I was wiggle digging in the background to the music, man. You saw it. Love that song. It's finally time. We didn't know if it was going to happen. Week 1 of the NFL season starts tomorrow night. We're recording this on Wednesday. Starts tomorrow night. It's really happening. Everybody's just realizing there's an NFL season. They're best balling like crazy today. It's a lot of fun. And what we do on the show, because this is the first one of the season, we go through every angle on the NFL slate from both a daily fantasy and betting angles perspective. John is one of the top DFS players in the world and a professional sports gambler. So we're going to get sharp insights from him. I'm here just for looks, handsomeness. It's mainly my role. And we're actually going to look at every game as well from a DFS perspective. We're not going to go too crazy in depth here. We want to get an overall view of the slate. It's fairly early in the week, and hopefully we'll hone in on some of these angles to begin with. But the philosophy behind the show, John, is trying to look at the Vegas lines for each game and understand the story that the line is telling us. What do the odds makers think is the most likely outcome in these games? And then looking for ways where we might be able to outsmart them on occasion once in a while. Now, before we get into everything, I want to say Geeks Vegas Lines is presented by DFSArmy.com and SportsBetArmy.com. DFS Army gets you all the tools and advice you need to compete in daily fantasy like a pro. We are leveling the playing field, producing $1 million winners and six-figure winners consistently throughout the year, and of course for NFL. Go sign up at DFSArmy.com as a VIP using promo code GEEK, and you'll get 20% off the regular monthly dues. In addition, we are sponsored by SportsBetArmy.com, where you can get advice, picks, and learn the trade of sports gambling from pros like John Alessia. You can go to SportsBetArmy.com and sign up as a VIP. You can get 20% off using promo code GEEK. And at SportsBet Army, you will get picks from John, but also advice, discussions, really just learning how to sports gamble and how to do it responsibly and profitably. So get over there if you want to bet on these games with a little more knowledge than maybe what you think you have. And also if you just want to learn the art of sports gambling from guys who have been doing it for many, many years successfully. There are models there that are spectacular, time-tested models for every sport, not just football. So check it out. All right. This is it. Now, John, my first question, I want to give you an overall sort of, I have overall questions about the sports gambling angles, and we could talk a little bit about the DFS side as well. It's week 1. It's a weird season. There were no preseason games. These guys have not been tackled So they're also playing in what could be empty stadiums. I need to understand what the effect is on week one overall of all of this weirdness, of the lack of a preseason, of the lack of playing time together, and of course, the lack of fans in the stadium, and how does that affect home field advantage? Break it down for me.
We'll start with the fans, and that pretty much negates all home field advantage. I've spoke about this before. If you haven't heard me talk about this, there have been studies on this. The home field advantage does not really lie in the fact that you have to travel or you don't get to sleep in your own bed and things of that sort. It's really based on the officials. And what influences the officials most is the fans. And what we've seen happening as more sports have gone to electronic video replay, things of that sort, is the home field advantages have actually all gone down. You've seen it in NBA. You'll see it in, baseball's virtually, there is none, even when there are fans now. And the NFL has dropped considerably. What used to be 3.5 points you'd want to give a home team, you're now giving about, 2. In some cases, you might only give 1.5. This season with no fans, I would anticipate giving 0 points, a 0-point edge. These are all neutral field games as far as I'm concerned.
When you looked overall at the week one lines, because I'm going to have to train my brain to accept what you're saying right now. My brain is still looking at the home team, the away team, and it's like, oh, they're at home. Blah, 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 blah. So when you looked at the week one lines, do you believe that the odds makers have factored in a lack or essentially no home field advantage for these teams? Or are you seeing in the spreads that that's not fully figured in the way that you just described?
Yeah, I think it's factored in. Here's what you get in week one that is unique to every other week. These lines have been out for a long, long time. So the sharp guys are picking these lines off back in, as soon as the schedule is made, they start coming in. So the sharpest week that you're going to have with the lines is going to be in week one because these lines have been tested already. Because what happens is if the books come out and let's say they make a line that's off, that's going to get bet and corrected. So the lines that you're currently getting have pretty much been bet by the sharp money. The late money tends to be more of the casual fan, the casual bettor. So is the casual fan going to factor in the that there should be no home field advantage? I don't know. So we might see lines move a little bit in favor of the home teams, but I think the sharp guys understand that the home field advantage is out the window, and that's been baked into the lines here.
I'm fascinated by this and to really see how it plays out. Now, I want to touch on an angle you just mentioned, that these are the sharpest lines we're going to see. These lines have absolutely been out for more than a month. On the flip side, even the sharpest bettors have no real knowledge of these teams, and I think that kind of is the second part of it. Just because a line is sharp and really smart football people sort of have pushed it to where it's at, that doesn't mean that these probability outcomes are more likely to happen, particularly in week one, where those sharp people are working with a very, very limited set of data. So would you say that on the flip side of this, in week one of the season, wouldn't that be the week where these lines are most likely to be really, really wrong?
Oh, I don't think there's a doubt that we'll look back in 4 weeks and say, boy, those were awful lines. But we've all got the same info here, as you said. So yes, there might be a little bit of an advantage for the casual player because we all haven't been able to see any preseason. From my point of view, I think the preseason gets overrated. I think the public jumps on things that happen in the preseason, both in fantasy and in the betting world, and they jump on all these. There's a lot of narratives that go on in the preseason. You'll see guys jump up in season-long drafts tremendously based on preseason, and then they kind of fall flat. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. But my thing is, and this goes for every season, but even more importantly this year, is have some sort of if you have a view, we used to call it an axe on Wall Street, right? You have an axe. So if you've got a view here, maybe your view is, you know what, McCaffrey's not going to be 70% of the offense, or whatever obscene number he is of the offense this year. I think they're gonna tone. I'm just throwing out an example of the best play, the best fantasy player out there. Perhaps you think the whole Tom Brady situation in Tampa, which I tend to lean towards, from a fantasy standpoint, maybe their numbers of all their players are going to be down in my view from where they were a year ago, because Winston is a fantastic fantasy quarterback. He's just a terrible quarterback if you want to win games, but he puts up great numbers. So if that's your view, my suggestion is, before you start looking at the odds and start looking at the player, whether it's DFS or your sports betting here, look at the big picture, look at the macro, look at each team. If you have a view, and let's say Tampa maybe necessarily is not going to be putting up as many points, that's your view. Even though they've got Tom Brady, they're going to secure the ball, they're going to keep drives going longer. Their defense is going to be they're going to rely on that defense that was pretty good last year, especially against the run. Let's say that's your view. Then don't go and look at the game itself that they're playing this week with the Saints and say, oh, well, I don't know about that point total. Have that view, and then just have the guts to say, you know what, I'm going to take this for the first few weeks. I'm going to take, if that's your point of view, I'm going to take unders on these games, or I'm going to fade them in fantasy. Have that point of view, and then don't let the market influence which way you think.
Absolutely. I like the idea going in with your preconceived notions and then seeing how it differs from the lines on these games. And one of the things I'm thinking about week one is just all of these teams with new players, particularly new quarterbacks at the helm, but also new coaching staffs. I really do think that it's going to take some time for them to mesh. And I really do think that there's a reasonable chance we see some sort of play that is very sloppy, that's not what's expected. And we're going to point that out with each game, because there are definitely some games where that will be the case. And you just don't know. It's like, all right, is Newton really prepared to helm the Patriots? Well, they got a great coaching staff, but he's a young quarterback, and there's not much going on at wide receiver on that team. Like, how is this thing going to go? Or did I say a young quarterback? A new back in a system that is learning something completely foreign to what he's used to. Older. Same with Brady, learning a new system. Old dog, new tricks. There's a lot of possibility for crazy shit happening in week one with some of these games, and things happening very much outside of the realm of our expectations based on these odds. So let's jump right into it.
I got one question for you before we go.
Go ahead.
So before we start, if we saw it in the NBA this year, right, with the bubble, that the totals started going, the game totals were hitting the overs early on, and the market eventually had to adjust. And a lot of that was because the officials were calling more fouls. Theory being, without any fans there, they were probably able to hear. They were able to hear it. So I'm trying to think: will the lack of fans actually affect any of the officiating in one way or another? Could it be where, on the offensive line, when these guys are getting held, they're screaming and yelling the whole time, "Hey, he's holding me! He's holding me! He's holding me!" Are we going to see more offensive holding type penalties? I think will be interesting to see. If that's the case, that's just another thing that's going to keep totals down. Just a theory right now that I'm looking into. Because
they can hear it.
Because you can hear the guys yelling at them like, look, he's holding.
Yeah, and it's not just that. Late hit. I mean,
all that. Yeah.
In pass interference. That would be really interesting if.
And you're going to hear the sidelines from the other side of the field. Like usually, you only have that one guy that you're yelling at when you're the head coach, that lines judge. Who's right in front of you all the time. They're going to be able to hear these guys all over. So it's going to be interesting. Do they call more penalties on both sides because they're going to be hearing it really? Their ears, they're going to have the rabbit ears, and they're going to hear it from both sidelines and the teams on the field. Be interesting to see if penalties go up, and if that's the case, does that keep the scoring down?
Or does it raise?
Or does it increase it if we're getting more pass interference and defensive holdings, things like that?
Could go either way.
Yeah, it's going to
be. That is fascinating to think, because we haven't seen games played in such a quiet environment. Really, even when the home team is on offense, like you can hear the crowd. There's always a noise. So we haven't seen games played out in this quiet. It will be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's just jump right into it. We've got, I think, what might be. Yeah, the highest total game of the slate set for the Thursday night game, which is really interesting. Kansas City, we love Kansas City. They're at home. They're taking on the Texans. Kansas City's coming in as a 9-point favorite in this one, very heavy favorite, 54.5-point game total. Now, this game for most daily fantasy is part of the showdown single game slate for Thursday night. And of course, over at DFS Army, we'll have a very, very specific and in-depth single game breakdown later today for DFS Army subscribers. That will probably be VIP only, although we're doing a lot of stuff open outside of the paywall week one just to give an idea of what we do. But from a betting angles perspective, week one, 9-point spread, Mahomes coming in. We've got the Texans really with a little bit of a changed wide receiver core outside of Will Fuller. Will Fuller has to be exciting, but they've added Brandon Cooks. They've added Randall Cobb. They've changed their running back situation from garbage to now they have maybe not garbage and David Johnson. I don't know. Do you think that the Texans are going to be competitive here? Does this spread seem reasonable to you?
Yeah, I think the number's pretty accurate, if not perhaps a little low on this one. But I think I understand why it's coming in. They opened it up at about 9.5. It's currently at 9, and the money has still come in on has come in on Kansas City, despite the line moving down. So that's interesting right there. That could possibly mean that there's some sharp money on the Houston side. As far as the total goes, that it's been fairly even as far as where the cash is coming in. There's been a little bit more money on the under. I kind of like the under a little bit here myself for a lot of the reasons that we were talking about. Now, I know Mahomes, that side of the ball, those guys, they're pretty much that outside of the new running back. They've got their pieces that they've had, same coach. They should be ready to go offensively. This team was better defensively, I think, than they got credit for. I mean, I know they're the Super Bowl champions. They were you have to consider defense. You'll see defenses get better depending on the style of play on the offense. I know that may sound very logical. The case I point to all the time is when I was studying when Alex Smith was over in San Francisco and then Cap took over in mid-year. That was a great defensive team. Well, they actually became a worse defensive team under Kaepernick because the ball was moving up and down the field a lot quicker. Alex Smith was more of a ball control type of guy. So I think they get overlooked here, Kansas City, with the quality of their defense because they put up so many points. But they do have the ability to shut down relatively shut down teams. If they hold teams to 21 points, they usually win. So
those stats don't look. Yeah, those stats don't look as great when you're up by, last season they're up by 21, they're up by 28, and all of a sudden, it's garbage time and the other team is throwing, just completing passes and doing what they need to do. One thing that Kansas City really did show weakness in was against the run last year. They really were not great versus the run for most of the season. Although, again, they turned it around a little bit late, and that narrative went away a little bit. And that's one of those measuring defense is very noisy overall. Sometimes you look like you're great against the run in the beginning, and it's just they face some bad teams or they got some luck. It's a very small sample size in the NFL, but Kansas City definitely does appear to be worse versus the run than the pass as a team overall defensively. So if we consider that, David Johnson's on a new team here, and I don't think he's going to be super popular. The narrative about David Johnson is just that he's washed, he was slow, and visually he kind of did seem that way to me. Do you think that David Johnson can turn it around for the Texans, particularly in a game where they might be chasing, might be behind? And it could go, to me, one of two ways. Either that means they actually throw to David Johnson, which is amazing for his fantasy scoring potential. Or it means, well, we're behind, bring in the third down back, and all of a sudden it's Duke Johnson out there, and David Johnson does shit. So I think on the Texans side, there's a wide range of outcomes for their running game, one of which includes even being behind, David Johnson having a pretty impressive overall type of game at what might be low ownership in the showdown relative to, let's say, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or somebody on the favorite side of the team. But it could lead to a big game if David Johnson's himself. What do we do with this sort of a mysterious situation?
Yeah, it falls into the game theory aspect of playing DFS, right? So I don't necessarily. I'm not. Well, let's put it this way. I think I'm high on David Johnson for the season. Okay, but in this particular game, I don't love the matchup. But what you've always got to figure out in DFS is, do you not love it as much as the market does not love it, right? So you may have an advantage here, like you're saying, in getting a guy who's starting for an offense that could be pretty good, and being able to pivot off of the higher owned Kansas City running back here in this situation. So yes, you might, as I look at it closer, I'll get a better feel, but yes, you might be able to pivot onto a David Johnson. And I do think I'm not as concerned with them being down in the game. That's not really where I'm concerned with, because I think they will use Johnson enough in the passing game where you'll get some receptions out of him, might catch 5 balls. As always with the fantasy, and it's a little bit of luck, is does he get the touches down on the goal line? There's a lot of things that we don't know. And that we're going to have to see, but there might be an edge there in taking Johnson on the showdown type of slate, and hoping for the best, hoping the market is way wrong and under on him.
Yeah, it would essentially be just going contrarian. I think because the market is going to want to play the favorite, they're going to want to get involved with the fantasy points scoring potential of the Kansas City explosive offense, and that's understandable, and so you might get him at a discount. Now, one other angle at the running back position in this game, and I don't want to get too deep into this game because realistically, we're going to do a full hour breakdown of this for the showdown. That's what we do. We want to dive super deep. But one other angle I've been thinking about real quick on this one, and of course, we love all of the pieces on Kansas City. I love Fuller. We love all the pieces on Kansas City, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, and of course, secondarily, Sammy Watkins and all of that, and Mahomes, and they're all great. I mean, it's the highest scoring game of the week. We don't need to get into the fact that you should play the team with the highest projected team total. But one angle that I'm looking at is Darrell Williams is coming in as the, quote, number 2 back. But I see a couple of different scenarios where Darrell Williams has a good game, one of which being where Kansas City takes a big lead and then they bring in the backup. Hey, we're up big. Let's run Darrell Williams out there, smash mouth, close out the game. I see another scenario where they're not up big, but they're getting blitzed, and maybe Mahomes gets hit a couple times. Elaire missing blocks. I was just like, all right, bring in the vet. Let's get Darrell Williams in here. So he's super cheap on DraftKings for the showdown, 1,800. I think he should be one of the most popular. I don't know if he will be. We'll see what the ownership projections say, but I think he should be one of the most popular players on the showdown tomorrow night, just because of that $1,800 price tag, super cheap running back position. We've also done a lot of research that shows that the backup, number 2 running back, is very much live for not just your flex spot, but occasionally even the captain spot in the Nuts lineup, taking these contests down. What do you say?
I like it. I mean, I like that whole idea. I mean, you've got a guy, probably the most hyped guy going into the season, right? CEH.
Elaire is now going occasionally at pick number 4.
I had a 14-team draft last night. I believe he went 6th. To me, it's insane. I understand. I understand Andy Reid with running backs. I know that offense is tremendous. He might be tremendous. We saw it with how good Kareem Hunt was.
Do you remember Kareem Hunt's debut?
The debut
was a
I remember it really. I remember it really well because I had Ware on my team. Ware got hurt in the preseason, and I said, well, I don't think Hunt's much different than Ware. I'm still going to stand by that. I didn't say Hunt sucked, but as he's kept scoring touchdowns, I think he had that like 70-yard passing touchdown in the second. And he just kept taking everything to the house against the Patriots, right?
Yeah, it was the Patriots. I won't forget that game. It is very
Thursday
memorable.
Night, and so I just kept getting bombarded with texts like, "Do you still think Hunt sucks?" And I'm like, I didn't really say he sucked. I'm just saying you could plug anyone into that offense, and they're going to be amazing. But although we saw last year, they really couldn't. They didn't have the everyone went crazy last year drafting Kansas City running backs, right? And it didn't pan out as well. It's happened before, with Andy Reid.
Whoever they plug in seems to be just fine.
They're just fine. Andy Reid teams, for the most part, he's had the one back, but he's gone seasons where he's used multiple backs, like last year, to great success. Do we know for sure that it's just going to be the Edwards-Helaire show? You don't. So
I would say I'm very confident that it won't be the Helaire show. This is a rookie running back. Listen, we saw you have to have exposure because of Kareem Hunt against the Patriots. We're like, holy shit, we've seen this song before. All right, we've danced this dance before. But no, I am definitely not confident. I think both guys are going to be out there. I think it's going to be more of a mix than anybody thinks. That's my personal view going in.
Yeah, I can see it. That's one of the things. See, and that's something that you might before the season, what we were talking about before, you just say, you know what, this guy's just getting overhyped. And for fantasy, I'm going to take a shot in week 1 that I'm right, and I'm going to fade. Right, this is the time. Week 1 is really the time when you can fade. By the time you get to week 10, we kind of know where these guys are. Like fading McCaffrey last year in any week just really wasn't profitable. You kind of knew what you were going to get, and no matter what they jacked his price up to, he was going to get 30 to 40 points and be in the winning lineups. It is
interesting that the sites went right back to his closing value from last season rather than sort of resetting things, and then allowing the value to go. They just went right back to 10K. Top dollar on for Christian McCaffrey. But all right, let's rapid fire a few of these Sunday games here as we've gone through the Thursday game fairly in depth for what we're looking to do. Let's rapid fire some of the less exciting games, and then we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the more interesting ones. But I'll start with the first game on my list here, and that is the Colts, 8-point favorites, taking on the Jaguars, with a 45-point game total now. John, I'm quite a bit surprised here. I think the Jaguars are going to be bad. I get it, but 8-point favorites with a new quarterback at the helm, really? That seems like a lot of faith to put in a guy who is old, who is learning new tricks in Phillip Rivers on a new team with new pass catchers. What the fuck is going on here?
That's a lot of points. I agree. That game stuck out. I think that game stuck out to me as soon as I saw that line come out right away. So my initial reaction was, yeah, I'll take the points in a game like that. And like you said, now Rivers has a comfort level with Frank Reich, so we know that he knows the offense. This is a pretty much he's coming in playing the same offense that he has, so he's going to be okay there. The question is, he wasn't very good. Right, so you're not getting Phillip Rivers 10 years ago.
Phillip Rivers was fine when the defense he was facing was bad, but actually, no. I mean, I can remember some Raiders games too where he made that defense look pretty damn good.
I'm not. I'm not totally confident. Rivers is. I know a lot of they seem to be the sexy pick here. Colts to win the division. I think I've heard that quite a bit with Hopkins leaving in Houston. I guess Tennessee obviously. Was pretty solid last year, but a lot of people want to jump on the Colt bandwagon. I'm not ready to do that. I just think you're bringing in I don't know if there is. Quite honestly, I don't know if there's much of an improvement at the quarterback position, and I might eat these words, but I don't think they're that much better than having Brissett at the quarterback spot with Rivers at this point in his career.
One thing I am going to say. So there's a couple of things that Rivers does really well, and I want to focus on just this kind of stuff real quick in this game, because this game is not super exciting from a daily fantasy perspective, at least for me. Rivers does throw a great deep ball, and I could see him landing one or two of those to a T.Y. Hilton who is healthy. I think it's Travis Benjamin or some last name Benjamin guy who used to always get open deep for him, and he'd get 2 receptions but put up a big number. So I do think there's an angle in this game where Rivers can complete a big splash play or two to T.Y. Hilton. I also think that the Colts offense does make for. I don't think they're going to be played. I think the ownership is going to be super low across the board on this team. The worst play on the team is Jonathan Taylor. Don't do that. But to me, he's splitting touches with Marlon Mack in yardage and touchdown situation. I don't want that kind of a running back who doesn't catch passes. That's in a split situation with another no pass catching run. It's just an ugly situation. At the running back, for me, I'm not touching it. But I could see throwing in the Millie Maker, a Rivers, T.Y. Hilton type of stack in there, maybe bring it back with DJ Chark. And just like a small little game stack around this one. Not going to be popular. No one's going to want it. It doesn't stand out at all. 45 points. It's the perfect milquetoast projection for a game. I mean, do you use this game when you're MMEing this week? Is this one say, hey man, I might throw a little 2, 3, 4% exposure on Rivers game stacks here?
Oh yeah, for MMEing, especially in the Millie, you've got to get creative. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I might even use another stack, another quarterback. Let's say I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, like a quarterback, tight end, and then use those two wide receivers that you mentioned. So do a Chark, Hilton,
that secondary stack. We love
without the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, you could do things like that. That's kind of why I like the MMA, because you get a little creative in how you build the lineups when you're a single entry. You don't want to be as creative. That's if single entry. I'm certainly not putting in a Rivers stack in a single entry lineup, but MME, sure, I'm going to have some exposure, and like I said, I might do the secondary stacks of a Hilton Chark.
There we go. And on that note, for anybody watching this, if you check the YouTube channel, number one, make sure you're liking and subscribing right now. Smash that like button and hit subscribe and notify, so you get notified when our videos come out. That's very, very important. But on John's point just now, earlier this week, I did a video breaking down the difference between cash game 3 max, which is what you call single entry or 3 max approaches, and mass multi-entry approaches, and that did go into depth, kind of talking a little bit about what you just said. You don't want to be looking for secondary like a million we don't want to go crazy correlation, low ownership in our single entry. We want to differentiate from what is a cash approach and understand what everybody else is going to be doing. Do a little something different. Spend a lot of time on that. So go back and check that out.
And don't be afraid of using the second wide receiver. Don't always be using wide receiver 1. There's a ton of value in dropping down to stacking wide receiver 2 with your quarterback, and obviously if the situation presents itself. But in a high scoring game where you feel like a lot of times you'll see it maybe with the Detroit. We'll talk about specific teams, and in a potentially high scoring game, using that wide receiver 2 when everyone else might be jump. If you want it, you want the number 1 stack of the weekend, but you don't want the most obvious one. Absolutely. So sometimes it's good to drop down to wide receiver 2.
Love the switch over in single entry. Now, just looking at this game a little bit more, the running back situation for the Jaguars is a little bit wacky right now. It looks like, I need to remember his name, Jerome Robinson, I think it is going to be the starter. And let me make sure I've got the name right. With James Robinson, not Jerome. James Robinson looks like he's going to start, or he's been declared the starter. He was a 7th-round rookie pick, came a little bit out of nowhere. I like that situation, John. I like it. I like it. Why are they giving it to him? Why are they? Because this guy has impressed in camp. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be on this spot. But what do you say? James Robinson is a DFS play week 1. Pretty cheap, 4,500 on DraftKings. I mean, 4,500 on FanDuel. Oh, I switched over to FanDuel. No wonder this looks different. Well, let me get the DraftKings price here. But 4,500 on FanDuel is absolute min salary on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I assume he's very cheap as well. Let's see. It's going to take me a minute here, of course, to reset. But what do you think about him as a DFS play for week 1?
I'm not. I'm not going to get
chalk
excited
or bad
about
chalk.
it.
I'm always.
It's either,
Robinson is 4K on DraftKings.
Well, he's either getting the start because he impressed people, or that everyone else that they have is very unimpressive, which I think I would lean more that way. You don't have Fournette.
Well, they got rid of Fournette, maybe knowing that this guy was there and that they really liked what they saw.
I think
I would present a different angle.
Yeah,
they got
I get
rid
it.
of Fournette. You know what I mean? For nothing, maybe because they saw this guy and said, you know what, we like what we're seeing here in between him and I think it's Divine Ozigbo. We think we might have something going on here.
I'm gonna play a wait and see. The thing on this, the Colt rushing defense was not too bad last year.
Yeah, it's just good.
So yeah, this is not. I'm not going to be overly excited. Without actually breaking my lineups down. I don't know exactly how much exposure I have, but there's the potential I would have none here in this game to the Jacksonville running backs.
I'm always looking for good chalk versus bad chalk at cheap starting running back spots. So that's why I will always mention any sort of cheap running back that's getting the start, and just, hey, I'm going to play him. I promise you that. Don't know how much, but I'll have a couple of shares just because you never know when these guys break out and look really good. I remember my perfect comparison is Phil Lindsay from a couple seasons ago. Played really great in the preseason. There was buzz about him. No one played him week one. Guy goes bananas week one. And everyone's like, that must have been a fluke. And even week two, no, he had another great week. So, I like when they named the starter as the least sort of likely person on the team to be named starter, they could have gone with a veteran or something else. But it's like, and again, there's another player there, Zigbo, who everybody thought, had more draft capital or whatever. And no, they named this guy. So I'm going to get a little bit of taste, but I don't think I'm ready to use him in my cash lineup week one. All right, Let's move on to the next game. We're going to, this one's actually a little bit more interesting. This is actually one of my favorite games from a DFS perspective to kind of dig into and maybe have a lot of interest in. We've got the Raiders taking on the Panthers at Carolina. The Raiders are favored, which is interesting. That definitely feels like a no home field advantage line because the Raiders are coming in as road 3.5-point favorites here with a 47.5-point game total. Now, the Jaguars are borderline expected to be one of the worst. I don't know if we can know this, but they're expected to be one of the worst defenses in the league. They were terrible last season. They've switched over a lot of players, haven't played together very much. They've got a whole new coaching staff in place. It's hard to know when you have a new coaching staff what your team is going to look like and how long it takes them to mesh. Can they come out week one and sort of have this new defense down pat, or some new players in there, a lot of new shit going on? Or does it take a few weeks, but then they come together? That's where you see those defensive numbers really change, where they look terrible, and all of a sudden week 5 we're like, hey, hammer the Panthers, but they start playing well. That's football for you. It's tough.
Yeah,
but
from a betting perspective, the Vegas has taken all the money. The Vegas team, I should say, has taken the money. We got to get used to calling them Las Vegas, right? The Raiders.
I have to say Raiders because Vegas and Raiders doesn't flow in my brain.
Well, I mean, my dad still calls them the Baltimore Colts, so I don't know how long it's going to take me to switch over. But the Vegas team is getting a good chunk of the money, 84%. But the total is pretty split; it's pretty even. So 47.5 on the total. No, the market doesn't seem to like this one way or the other. I think, like you said, this is kind of a game that's possibly is going to come underneath the radar. Carr's not going to get he won't be huge owned here on the weekend slate. Yeah, I could totally see using Carr against this defense. I'm not very high. I'm not the only one out there. This was a terrible defense. I can't see how they improve all that much off of last season. So that number's low. I guess when you break it down, they're looking for a score from Carolina in the low 20s. But I don't know. This has the potential of the Raiders scoring some points in this game.
I think on the Raiders side, I'm most excited about the running game and maybe Josh Jacobs here. Assuming they're playing from ahead or not behind, Josh Jacobs will get very, very heavy usage and will absolutely have the potential to smash 2 touchdowns, which is pretty much what we need if we're going to win a tournament. With him as our running back based on his salary, especially on DraftKings, where he's not much of a pass catcher. So we really need him to smash 2 touchdowns for us to get there. Although there is some promise of them throwing to him this season. I'll believe it when I see it. On the flip, I don't love David Carr. David Carr, the fucking Carr that is in charge of the Raiders offense there. I don't love Carr because he just is so boring of a pass thrower, and they don't have a lot of weapons going on in the passing game that I think we can rely on. But without the reliability comes variance and comes sort of interesting possibilities. We've got Ruggs. We've got Brian Edwards, 2 new players on this offense. We've got Terrell the Gazelle. He's out. He's done. So between Waller, my belief is between Waller, Ruggs, and Edwards, we're going to get one really, really good performance potentially. And I'll throw in Hunter Renfrow. Maybe he's the guy that we all forgot about that ends up doing it. But I think we're going to get one really good performance, but it's hard to know and predict with accuracy who that person will be. What do you think there?
Well, overall, I think Jacobs is the guy that you're going to most want, right, on the Raider side of the ball. I think it's a really juicy spot. The Carolina rush defense was atrocious. Don't believe they're going to get much better here coming into this season. I don't believe they added any pieces that'll help them defensively at all. They've actually lost. So, yeah, I think it's a good spot. I think Gruden doesn't mind just kind of smashing the ball with Jacobs here. Like you said, maybe he'll get some touches in the passing game. We shall see. The wide receivers, I mean, Waller, as far as a tight end, is basically like a 4th wide receiver for them. So I think he's your obvious choice as their best passing option or receiving option, I should say. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you may be right here where you've got the potential from the Raider wide receivers to pick a gem out that's going to virtually be unowned. I don't think any of these guys are going to be particularly owned, and there is the potential there for a big day.
Yeah, it's unknown. No one's seen these guys. You don't feel comfortable. The mind floats to familiarity. We've never seen Ruggs. We've never seen Edwards. We don't know what they're going to do. I know that in college, Ruggs was an explosive player, and his skill set is very explosive. He seems like the guy that could take one to the house. That might be just like a little 6 foot kind of slant situation. Take it to the house. He has that skill set. Brian Edwards is going to be on the outside playing the Terrell role, and we know that the Raiders do like to throw. Actually, it wasn't a great role for Terrell in the past either, but Edwards is the guy who's been impressing the most in camp. You don't know. I think one of those guys, they're all in play, particularly if I'm game stacking from the opposite side with Teddy Bridgewater, who I'm probably a little more comfortable rolling out as my quarterback, where I might want to bring it back with Jacobs, or I might want to be more contrarian and bring it back with one of these wide receivers. On the flip side, and we'll just kind of go through it real quick, Christian McCaffrey, top play on the slate. At running back, no doubt he's a workhorse. He's a beast. He is a pass catcher. He's a runner. He's everything we want. Certainly he's priced really high up, and if he does not deliver 30-plus fantasy points, he's probably going to strain our lineups in a negative way. A little bit tricky for a team learning a new offense and certainly a new coaching staff. But outside of that, I don't see any reason why, I'm not smashing the Christian McCaffrey button to start my cash lineup this week and moving on from there, and probably my single entry if I can afford it. As far as the pass catchers, though, for Carolina, I do think there's ways to get different here. Robbie Anderson is there. No one's going to play Robbie Anderson. We haven't seen him in this offense. We don't know what he's going to do, but we do know that the player is a big play guy. And, of course, DJ Moore, everybody loves. And, Curtis Samuel is probably the dark horse, least likely one to have a big game here. Do you have any interest in the passing game for Carolina DFS purposes this week?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I don't think this offense is going to be atrocious. I mean, certainly when you have McCaffrey there,
it's an improvement at quarterback. There's no question.
I think it's an improvement at quarterback. The wide receiver core is probably better this year than it was last year. I mean, you got Moore and Samuel back, and I like the addition of Robbie. I think Anderson, like you said, he might be one of those guys where he's going to have really big weeks and then absolutely,
perfect DFS guy. I want all or nothing. Give me a 0 this week and a 25 next week. I'll play every week.
He's going to be that kind of guy, I think, in here when he catches two long balls for touchdowns. He's going to give you that big week every now and then. So yeah, I'm fine here taking it. I'm also fine with you saying again, which we talked about earlier, which is. Perhaps they don't use McCaffrey nearly as much. New coaching staff in here. Maybe they want to save McCaffrey a little bit. I thought that might happen last year, but perhaps the coaching staff last year said, "You know what, we're on our way out, and we're just going to ride this guy down, and we're going to grind him to the ground.
The McCaffrey risk this week is that there's a new coaching staff in place, and we simply do not know how they will treat him, like what you just said. McCaffrey, a volume beast. He was getting 30 touches. That's how you produce massive fantasy points in the NFL, period. He's also incredibly talented, but it's the touches that lead to the scoring. And so we're assuming something that, hey, of course they're going to keep riding McCaffrey. Hey, they have no one else at running back. And so, yeah, they're going to keep doing that. But that is an assumption. We don't know for sure. So one of the things I wrote in my notes, and I did my notes already on the Geeks Pick sheet about McCaffrey, was just keep in mind there is that little sliver of what if this new coaching staff is different? What if the offense comes out very, very disorganized? Again, it's week one, and there are week one risks everywhere. Nothing is 100%. Let's move on. We got to hammer through these games. We'll be here all day. So next game, we got the Dolphins and the Patriots. Everybody loves betting the Patriots, John.
They used to.
Even without Brady. I don't know if they love it with Cam Newton at the helm, but I had a fun idea for a bet. And wait. All right, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to throw a little contest on the Sportsbet Army. And remind me after this to do this. A little contest. I want to do a contest based on what kind of costume Cam Newton will wear at the post-game presser. Okay? Let's think on it after that. I had an idea for all right, if he wears any kind of rag thingy with something tied under the chin, we'll give out a free month of Sportsbet Army or something like that. But I want to think that fully through.
Okay.
If his costume is Halloween level, then we'll give the month. If he comes out wearing a suit buttoned up Patriots way, that's the surprise. Or isn't it? I don't know. Can we bet on that? Do they have the prop on that over on
perhaps color? Yeah, perhaps color of the suit. But no, I think it's a pretty safe bet that it'll be interesting. Let's just leave it at that.
We got to come up with something. All right. Sorry to go there. Now let's talk about this game. Patriots getting a lot of respect here, I guess. 6.5 point favorites on the road. Again, I don't know if that's respect because now we're not counting the road game. Here's what we know. The Patriots defense, not the same group that dominated last year.
Well, Pats are home.
Oh, they are home. Okay,
yep.
So in this case, then they're not getting much home field love. Sorry, yeah, I misread that. So they're not getting much home field love as 6.5 point favorites. Could it be that we are overestimating, and the lines are overestimating this Patriot offense? They have really nothing going on. They're N'Keal Harry and a bunch of ne'er-do-wells. We know that, and sorry, I'm putting Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman let me start here. Julian Edelman's my boy. I love Julian Edelman. I will hang out with Julian Edelman. We'll go out. We'll have a beer. We're going to hang out, talk shit.
Some Manischewitz.
Well, listen, we get together for the times. That's my boy. There's not too many of us.
That's right.
In the NFL, so we got to stick together. But here's the deal. He is the worst possible skill set for Cam Newton. He's small. Cam Newton cannot throw with accuracy. He's a crossing routes pattern guy. He's a get open guy. Cam Newton needs a giant wide receiver because he overthrows. That is his style. He's not changing at age 31. There's a reason why the Panthers kept drafting gigantic tight ends as wide receivers and failing at it for him, but nonetheless constantly grabbing Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin style players. And the only guy that he could complete passes to as a Panther was Greg Olsen, another giant target up the middle. So I think Edelman is a waste of time in this offense. He's not going to be able to take advantage of the skill set. All he's got is N'Keal Harry to throw to, dude. How are these guys and Sony Michel at running back who did not play well last year at all? Are we overestimating the Patriots offense here?
Perhaps a little bit. It's all going to come down to how healthy Cam Newton is. Healthy Cam Newton right now can do things that Tom Brady not necessarily cannot. I just don't think Cam Newton is going to be the Cam Newton that we saw when he was winning MVPs. I think those days are over. If for some reason, having pretty much the year off last year gets him back to full strength, then maybe it's a different story. But I don't think so. I like what you said here about Edelman. That is not the type of receiver Cam likes to throw. He is not the short, quick, accurate passes to the slot receiver type of guy. He needs to throw the ball, like you said. He's going to be on the run, inaccurate, needs a wide receiver or a tight end who could go up and get the ball and help him out, and then throw the ball deep. So, yeah, there's going to be opportunities in this game for him to get the ball deep down the field.
N'Keal Harry, baby.
Yeah, I think that's where you have to look. The money's actually coming in, and a lot of sharp money came in on the Miami side. I think the sharps kind of agree with you here.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, it's a little high. It's a little high spread. I think. Now we've seen Belichick do it without Brady with New England, but those were much better teams. Those Matt Castle teams were much better teams than this New England team.
Now one angle I would pursue here is the Patriots defense was so good at scoring last year.
Yes.
And we are dealing with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is probably one of the widest ranges of outcome quarterbacks that you will ever see in the National Football League. He is borderline more that than what Jameis Winston is. So, you could see Fitzpatrick come out and he can throw for 4 touchdowns in this game against the Patriots' vaunted defense. We might also see a Ryan Fitzpatrick come out and throw 4 or 5 interceptions. And it wouldn't blow my mind if a little mix of both of that happened in this game. He's throwing for touchdowns and interceptions. Patriots doing all of their scoring with the defense, but the Dolphins producing fantasy points to the offense when they get the ball back and they aren't throwing interceptions. So it's a very wide range of outcomes, and I like that for fantasy purposes. Is this a game that you would maybe consider getting on the Miami offense side in a Millie Maker, silly for the Millie type stack? And I could say that, and the answer is never no.
Yeah, it's never no.
Yeah, it's always yes.
This is a tough spot. I mean, I can give you both sides. Like I said, we know how good New England was, but they have lost some pieces on that side of the ball.
A lot of opt-outs. Patrick Chung.
Yes.
Are the McCourty brothers playing?
Unsure. I have to look that up. But they did lose. They also lost a couple of defensive players to Detroit, I believe, as well, right?
Yeah, the whole defense was decimated.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand Belichick, defensive guy. He kind of took over the defense, and he got a lot of credit for how well that defense played last year. You still need the horses. I don't care how good the coach is. So there's potential here where this defense is not going to be nearly as strong. Maybe this team on the whole, the Patriots' domination of the AFC East, maybe this is it. I'll take the players before the coach any day of the week, and no matter how good the coach is. So I've seen Belichick in Cleveland. I know he made the playoffs there, but
we ain't ripping on Belichick.
I'm not ripping Belichick,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is when you don't have the horses, you can be as good a coach as you want to be. It's just not going to work out. Now we'll see. I'm not terribly optimistic here. So yeah, if you want to take some shots with Fitzpatrick, again, this is another team. It's wide open. I mean, you've got who are you going to go with at running back on this team? You've got the wide receivers that we've seen, Parker and Williams.
Yeah, I don't want to play the running game.
No.
I don't want to do that. I really, it's just because Fitzpatrick sometimes busts out the magic that, it's silly for the Millie. The play I don't hate, I hate less might be, I certainly, you have to play the Patriots defense in some lineups because they produced 27-point games multiple times last season. This is Miami. That's the kind of team that gives up 27 fantasy points occasionally. So you got to play a little bit of that. You got to pay up for it. I don't hate Miami defense here. Cheapest defense on the board. Again, going up against the Newton, who this is Cam Newton. Like, there's a reason the Panthers let him go. He's not been himself the last few years. We don't know that he's going to be good. He could just come out and look like shit. So I'm going to play a little bit. My sneakiest play is maybe sneaking in a little Miami D exposure. Not to say the Patriots even need to lose for Miami defense to work. I just don't know that the Patriots running game is going to be strong enough to control this. And if they have to throw a lot, I'm not convinced that Cam Newton can, avoid mistakes. First game back, hasn't played in a very long time. It's really 2 years that he hasn't played because
and he's on a new team.
He's on a new team, new system, a complicated system. Belichick, I'm just I wish I could know if Josh McDaniels simplified. He must have, but massively simplified their system, or they're trying to teach Cam Newton the complicated, difficult to learn offense that they ran with Tom Brady, and we won't know it until we see what happens here, because there's no way. Cam Newton, he knows Tom Brady. Tom Brady's system quarterback. Cam Newton is not that. So he's the polar opposite of that. So I don't want to say consistent quarterback. Brady is the greatest of them. But, he's very much playing smart system football, whereas Cam Newton's just out there running around, slinging it. It's a different approach to the game. All right, we spent a lot of time on that one. It's fun. I like a lot of these games. Guys, this one's going to be a long one. We will figure out how to control ourselves in the time of this down the road. But next up, we've got the Lions, 3-point favorites, taking on the Bears. It's another game, man. Low total, 44.5 points. But, if there's ever been a team that Mitch Trubisky has had success against, it's this terrible Lions pass defense that has not done anything in my mind that should make them particularly better. John, they don't have a running back in Chicago, really, or I guess Montgomery, maybe he's going to play. Questionable tech. They're not doing much at the running back position. I think they're going to have to throw a lot. Am I wrong to be excited about this game from a fantasy perspective? I kind of like the pieces on Chicago. I kind of like Stafford. It's weird. I don't know what to make of it, but I kind of like this game.
You might be one of the few who are going to get too excited about this one. Chicago defense against. Now I like Stafford here. I do like Stafford on the season. I like Galladay and I like Jones. This could be a tough matchup. Now we do have. I believe Chicago now has. They don't have the same defensive backfield as they have. They've lost some pieces there in the backfield, right? So we'll see.
They weren't good last year.
No.
Yeah.
That was I don't know if you could throw the whole season. I mean, they were 8-8, but that was a terrible season for Chicago all year. They just got awful play out of the quarterback. They're coming back to that same quarterback now this year. I don't know how excited you are of playing Chicago offense here in these games. I know you said if Trubisky could play well against
Trubisky has
Detroit.
done well against one team in his career, and it's Detroit. His stats against the Lions are better than every other team. It's just interesting. This is the one team where you might want to bust out a little Mitch Trubisky. I think he's got 8 touchdowns against them, and
we'll see. We'll see if they were able to improve because they've added some pieces on defense, Detroit. So we'll see if they're able to improve. The Chicago offensive line was 25th last year on Pro Football Focus. So yeah, it's they're going to have to protect Trubisky. I don't know. I mean, Trubisky, I've given up on.
I can't give up on him too, but I'm going to give him one more chance.
Stafford, if I'm gonna take a side of this game, it's going to be for DFS standpoint, it's going to be the Detroit side of the ball offensively, but I'm not going to do it all that enthusiastically.
Definitely, it's more Millie Maker. Again, a lot of the excitement week one is going to be how do I get unique attacking this million entry tournament, and this is definitely one I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Could be a popular defense. In these the Detroit defense might be, people hoping that Trubisky's as bad as he's been, and I could see the Chicago defense being played as well. So,
definitely, there's merit to both sides of that. But I'm telling you, I'm playing Trubisky.
All right,
Robinson, Miller.
Usually, you get laughed at whenever anyone mentions. I'm sure they are whenever anyone. So I'm just going to avoid it and say, I'll play it. But I'm just not going to tell anyone that I played it, and then if I win $1 million with it, I'll be like, But other than that, you'll never find my lineup that's sitting in 40,000th place with Trubisky, and no one will ever know.
Hunter's laughing at me in the comment section right now. All right, let's move on to the next game on the docket: betting angles and DFS perspective. We've got the Packers, we've got the Vikings. 46-point total, not too bad. 2.5 point spread. This is another game, John. It's going to go under the radar. I promise you. No one wants to play Kirk Cousins. No one wants to play Aaron Rodgers in DFS. But let's talk about the betting angles first. The Vikings come in favored by 2.5 points, 46-point game total. Anything we can glean off of this?
Yeah, I mean Rodgers is getting about 60% of the money, not overwhelming, but he's it's like 57% of the money's coming in on the Green Bay side. The significant difference is on the over/under. The under is catching about 70% of the cash. So that's where the market is right now. They're expecting this game to be low scoring. Again, if you've got a different view, this could be one that you could take advantage of. I could see this. This is one where I could see taking a shot. I mean, it's still Aaron Rodgers. I know that people are a little hesitant as far as maybe which weapons to use here for Green Bay. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's Aaron Rodgers. So I don't mind taking a shot. You've got Devontae Adams, but do you want to go and kind of stack maybe Lazard and do that? I mean, Adams is clearly, obviously, one of the best wide receivers in all football, all fantasy,
Adams,
for sure.
Regardless of the matchup, Devontae Adams, we expect him to get the 12 targets. He usually scores a touchdown. He didn't have the explosive 30-plus point games last season, but, I mean, there was just a lot of 20s and 25s, like incredibly consistent. So, yeah, he is the guy, no doubt.
Minnesota side, you lose, right? So there's no Diggs. But
It's
you got
all
Cook. You've got maybe the best running back, pure running back in the game right now. Certainly one of the best. Do we have confidence in the stacks on the Minnesota side as far as wide receiver, quarterback? Do you have any love for the tight end? I mean, it's.
I have confidence if the Packers are scoring. That to me, the Vikings are a very predictable team. So they have a pattern. Listen, if we can, they're like San Francisco, and a little bit like Seattle. If we can beat you with the run, and these teams are very, very predictable. If we can beat you with the run, that's what we're going to do. Like, we're not going to force the issue and throw. If we take a lead and we're up 21-0 and it's halftime, do not expect us to come out in the second half throwing. We're going to beat you with the run. Now, the thing of this is, this is Aaron Rodgers. He's a guy who can make a comeback. So if the Packers are keeping this game close, like the Vegas line indicates here, that will potentially inspire the Vikings to throw more, and that gets you Adam Thielen time going on. So that can happen. I think both of these quarterbacks, and Hunter's pointing this out, both these quarterbacks will run on occasion and can get you a little bit of scoring with their legs. Aaron Rodgers a little bit more so, but Kirk Cousins, not out of the question. For him to do that, he's not known as a runner per se, but again, he's more like a Ryan Tannehill. If he needs to do it, it's there. He's got the skill for it. So there's a little bit of sneakiness here in this game. Again, whenever I see these 46-point totals, everybody's going to flock to 49, 49.5, 48. But what the fuck is the difference? 47, 48, 49. These are all in the same range of outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point when you're talking about DFS, and that's all sports, right? The different, like you said, we look at these team totals or the game totals, and everyone flocks to the highest one. The difference between a 49 total and a 46 total, let's just say team total, the difference between a team projected for 27 and 25. I mean, yeah, I get in real terms it's 2 points. But the benefit that you get in a DFS standpoint, the leverage that you get in sometimes stacking that 25-point projected team is far greater than it is in taking the 27-point team. You just get so much more leverage. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great point. And when I actually break it down into the numbers, usually, I'm going to hopefully get some of this out for the DFS Army this year on probabilities of stacks being the nuts, or at least reaching a certain point total. And I've been working on that, and hopefully we'll get that out to subscribers. But you'll see that it's just it's not that big of a difference as you may think it is.
The
in
game,
the probability of one stack scoring over another or being the nuts.
Such critical info beyond. We're stacking games for the Millie Maker. In cash games, single entry, we have a little bit different approach. We want to get these high floor, high ceiling combo players, the unicorns, as I like to call them. But the ultimate is understanding the probability. Like, we all look at the exciting game of the week. It might be, I don't know which one it is necessarily this week, but there's always one that stands out. I think it's Baltimore. I don't know. There's an offense that stands out. There's a game that stands out. Like, oh, we have to play this. Maybe that's Tampa, New Orleans this week. That might be that game that stands out the most. But we want to roll at 30, 40, 50, 40% of our lineups. Like, it's going to happen. But the probability of that game actually producing the winning lineup, the best stacks, is way lower than what we envision in our head naturally. So that's important. And I love that kind of a tool, which will point that out. So I hope we get that going. All right, let's move on to another game. As we want to hammer through some of these here. We've got Seattle going cross country to Atlanta, take on the Falcons. This is one of the games that I think will be the most popular for DFS purposes of the week, possibly the most popular, John.
Very well could be. Atlanta was a team. Yeah, Atlanta was a team last year when when I post my rankings, and I've got the
yardage
and the offense and the yardage. The Falcons were one of those teams that you always wanted to look and see who they were playing because you wanted to stack that game and stack against them as well. So, yeah, this is going to be a juicy matchup.
The stackability here is just so beautiful. Not from a salary perspective, unfortunately, but from just a game theory, not game theory. That's the wrong word. From a game flow perspective, if the Falcons are doing their thing, the Seahawks are going to be answering, and that's what we want.
The great thing with Seattle is right. It's generally all about Russell Wilson, and when they're down, I mean, he'll just throw the ball nonstop. It's frustrating when you own Carson. And any piece of their running game, whoever happens to be, because generally they'll get banged up inevitably at the running back position over there, and whoever the running back is. But it's all about Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson to me is not saying anything. Everyone doesn't know. He's probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks because I think he wins games. There's a few guys who can win games on their own in this league. He's one of those guys. So you can put him on another team. He's going to instantly make any team he plays for better. He's been running around for his life with this team for the last couple of years. They haven't given him a ton of help on the line, but he makes it happen. So he's great in DFS, like you said, because if they get behind, he's going to throw it a ton.
When you have Russell Wilson at the helm of your team, the number one thing you should be rooting for isn't a quick touchdown for Seattle, especially if it's via the run. What you want to root for are scores from the Falcons in this game, which is why the game stack is so sexy in any Russell Wilson game. He is a guy that I almost never play with straight team stacks. I always play him in a game stack because Russell Wilson Unleashed 2.0 only happens when they're behind. The Seahawks, I've had Russell Wilson as my dynasty quarterback for many, many years on my on my primary dynasty league. And when you have a guy as your dynasty quarterback for many, many years, you learn everything you need to know. You experience him week in and week out. And I will tell you, Russell Wilson will have weeks where he gets you 9 fantasy points. And you're like, he fucking sucks now? What happened? No. The problem was the other team couldn't score. They're playing the Eagles. The Eagles can't score. And the Seahawks are perfectly happy to simply sit back and run the football and be up or have it close in the fourth quarter and let Russell Wilson do his thing late to win them the game. They will not do what the Baltimore Ravens do, which is keep the pedal to the metal 4 quarters, regardless of what the opponent is doing. They don't do that in Seattle. Pete Carroll's like, all right, it's a close game. Give it to Chris Carson. Give him 24 carries, 5 yards a carry. Let's take a field goal. They'll do that. But the minute their opponent is putting up points, the minute they go behind 7, they go behind 14, we want that, because now it's Wilson Unleashed. And Wilson Unleashed delivers 40-plus point fantasy performances and pulls up DK Metcalf and pulls up Tyler Lockett. Who the hell is you know who's the sneaky play, John, on DFS? How about my boy, Greg Olsen? He's old. He's decrepit. He's got a bad foot. No one cares. It's week 1. He's going to be feeling the best he's ever felt all year. Week 1, you know how it is, man. You get up. You're an old guy, so you know how it is.
I can barely walk, man.
Bro, I have pains in places. I'm like, how did I get a groin injury? Like, I was playing badminton the other day. I got injured. Fucking badminton.
Listen,
I'm on the ground like, oh, I'm hurt. Get a stretcher.
I'm looking to contact Dr. Andrews because I think I need Tommy John surgery from throwing out garbage. So
yeah, like
I can barely bend my elbow right now.
So you know how it is with us old guys, and Greg Olsen is one of us, right? So but week 1 he's feeling good. Yeah. So I like that. Seattle offense, but only if Atlanta is scoring as well. Seattle defense better than it was. It's going to be improved unit. There is a game flow scenario where their defense actually can stop the Falcons here. I'm actually surprised at the line, and I want to ask you about this line. I would have thought that Seattle would have been a larger than minus 1.5 point favorite in this spot. Is this are you sniffing around a little bet on Seattle here on the road? This feels like they're giving Atlanta a little home field edge here with this line, man.
I actually think the opposite. I think Seattle is not as good.
Oh,
I actually thought that line should be closer to pick 'em, if not slight Atlanta favorite. I think maybe.
Should we do a little side bet action for next week?
Sure. Well, sure.
I think that Seattle should be favored by 3 or 4 points here.
Yeah, I'll take Atlanta in this game.
Take Atlanta. All right, write that shit down on your little chalkboard later, because
I lose all these, but I'll
I'll forget it. We write that down. All right. I love this game. At Falcons side, Julio, Ridley, they have the new running back in TG Thrizzles. Can we play Gurley here? DFS purposes, can we take the shot?
Absolutely. It's the first look we're going to get. I like Gurley here this year. I think he's their primary guy. I think he's going to get a ton of carries. I think, and most importantly, does he get the important carries down by the goal line? I think he does. So I like Gurley. I like him in this matchup. So I'm cool with playing Gurley. I don't mind as much when running back switch teams. And I think this is a team that you're going to be able to run on. You'll be able to run on Seattle. So I'm fine. You know the deal. Let Julio go up and down the field, and then bang it in with Gurley, and we get 2-3 touchdowns, and Julio scores none, and that's the way it works.
No one wants to play Gurley, right? No one's confident in Gurley, but we don't know the usage. If Gurley gets 20-plus carries, he's going to have a monster day. I don't care what team he's going up against. We just don't know if that's going to happen. So I like the low ownership. I like for tournament I don't think he's the guy I'm going to plug into my cash game this week.
No.
Because we don't know the usage. I'd rather just use someone we know the usage for, which is coming up on one of these next games here. We got some exciting running back plays, and we already mentioned Josh Jacobs, but he's definitely somebody at low ownership that interests me. So we're going to be interested in Gurley in tournaments and just sort of for that upside, man. You're right. He could score 3. Julio doesn't punch it into the end zone. So why not Gurley? Why not? Yep. All right. What about one last player that I think is actually going to be popular for DFS purposes? And I don't know. I need to see the ownership before I'm confident, but Hayden Hurst taking over the Austin Hooper role for the Falcons here. Hayden Hurst never done anything, but he's getting a lot of hype. I mean,
I'll tell you what. Yeah,
he works out. He's got muscles.
From drafts I've been in so far this year, everyone's just in love with him. So boy, that's making me fade right there.
Wait, hold on. Let me just say this, Brooklyn style. I don't have any Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I don't either. It was impossible to get him. He was just going so quick and early. So there was no. I mean, I did an auction. I forget now because it was like a couple of weeks ago. There was some insane number Hurst went for. I just couldn't believe it. I wound up getting like.
Let me just make my rant about Hayden Hurst. I get that he's walking into a role that's produced last season, although I didn't see the tight end from the Falcons producing that great before last season, but whatever.
They didn't produce when Hooper got hurt either.
No, there was nothing going on there. But it might have been Hooper's talent. All I have to say is this. This guy was on the Ravens for the last couple of years and didn't do shit. As a matter of fact, like Nick Boyle would come out when Andrews was always hurt. There was so much opportunity for Hurst to emerge, and he just didn't. So I'm not saying he won't. I don't know. But all I'm saying is confidence in it, a little crazy. That being said, he's pretty cheap DFS purposes, playable week 1. But as long if I see his ownership going over 10%, I'm going to pass. There are other tight ends in that cheap range that I can get that won't be highly owned. And if he does great, okay, cool. I'll jump on the bandwagon for next week. All right, let's move on. Another game on the docket, and this is my beloved New York Jets heading out to Buffalo to take on the exciting, in my opinion, Buffalo Bills. Bills are favored by 6.5 points. Very low game total. Don't want to spend too much time on this one. 39.5 point spread here. Jets, pretty decent versus the run traditionally. Last couple of years, very, very bad versus the pass. I'm not sure that I see a lot of DFS interest for me personally in this game. I know the Jets have a pretty tight offense with just Crowder and Herndon. I don't want anything to do with Le'Veon Bell or whoever the hell they're going to Frank Gore. That's a shitstorm. But any interest in the passing game pieces for Buffalo? Because that's the only place I think I'd take a sniff here. But I'm leaning no.
Yeah, I'm not that high on it. Allen's one of those quarterbacks that you could take without stacking, right? Because he can give you some. If you want to take another game and do the secondary stack with 2 wide receivers, and then take Allen as a solo quarterback, sometimes that's not a bad idea because he can run in. He can give you some rushing touchdowns, some rushing yardage.
He would need to really. It's a big ask. He would need to.
Of course it is, but
yeah.
I like it better than stacking them in a game. I don't like the stacks here in this particular matchup. The under, just from a betting standpoint, we're getting 2-1 2-1 under to over money on this game, and we've already got a low total. So I mean, the market is not real high on this game being very exciting, and I don't think you can see much love in the DFS market either.
No,
I can't.
Let's. This game sucks. Any betting interest here? Do we want to bet 39.5 point? I mean, over under. Is the spread off at all, or is this pretty well priced at value?
Just first glance, I thought this was I thought this was a bit of a high line. Haven't totally finished with the model yet, so I don't know if there's going to be. I don't think I just from looking at it, I don't think there was a play on this game. So just my own personal opinion. I don't know. I tend to not want to lay too many points early in the season. Historically, the Dogs have done fairly well early. Maybe not the last couple of years, but over the last, let's say 10 years, just because a lot of the favorites just get they get a little overvalued, especially teams that were in the playoffs last year tend to be overvalued against teams that were not in the playoffs last year. So my tendency is always to lean towards those teams like the Jets who had poor seasons last year, and just take that. You tend to find a little bit of value on those teams.
There we go. All right. We don't want to spend too much time on that one. And on the note of time, guys, for those of you who are watching this live, drop a note in the comments section. Let me know if you guys kind of like a longer format of this show. Last season, we did try to keep it to an hour. It really was generally going to hit an hour and a half. It's a lot of games to cover. But tell me if you want a little more in depth or you want to hammer through these games quicker. I'm curious to know what the people want. Hit us in the comments section. If we're too yappy, you could tell us that too. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're awesome. Let us know you're there.
And Kevin was contemplating doing this with no shirt, so let us know if you prefer the no shirt look or the shirt look.
We did have a conversation about getting more female viewers, and I suggested maybe I should do the show shirtless. Let me know what you guys think. because John said that would actually repel women from wanting to watch, where that was kind of insulting, and so it hurt my feelings. So I want to know. All right, let's move on to the next game on the docket. I like this game. It's another good. I mean, it's interesting. Low scoring, not a whole lot, but there is a player in here that we're very excited about, or two. You've got the Eagles. You've got the Washington football team. I don't want to say it. I just noticed that in our content, it still shows the old logo for the Washington football team, and now
Well, that's pretty disrespectful.
I'm horrified,
Yeah.
and I don't even know what to do about it. So I'm just not even going to address that.
What you should do is we need to put a trigger warning on the homepage and say, before you scroll down, you may see an old Washington Redskins logo.
Yeah, I'm apologizing in advance for that. Listen, technologically, it takes us a minute to catch up with things. But here we go. Eagles, minus 5.5 points, 43-point spread. Low total game. We don't want low total games. That's not where we're going to get our action from. Eagles, excellent against the run. Redskins, new coaching staff, more aggressive, different. I think we're going to see a new Redskins team from what we remember last year. The last couple of years, that staff would just like play slow. They'd be behind. They'd still be smashing Adrian Peterson out there 25 times a game. They're down by 14. They're still doing it. I don't think that the regime in charge now with Riverboat Ron and crew is going to approach the game how they did before. Okay, so that was the Jay Gruden. Was it Jay Gruden who was over there the last couple of years?
Yes.
What a shit show. But they actually won games doing this very boring style of play. I think we're going to see something different, a little more aggressive, which might lead to turnovers and makes me excited about Eagles defense in this spot.
It's not, it's good logic, but you've also got you've got the head coach who ran Christian McCaffrey.
They don't have a Christian McCaffrey on that.
No, they don't have anything. They don't have that option.
Yeah,
but it'd be interesting to see.
I think what I want to note, because there is statistics behind what I'm saying, is the pace of play for the Panthers was one of the highest in the league the last couple of years. Like their pace of play. So I think we're going to get, rather than this, hey, let me slow down the game and smash Adrian Peterson and try not to lose by that much, like what you saw with Jay Gruden. He was like, oh, we're going to lose, but let's limit how badly that looks, to no, we're going to play fast. We're going to try to score. We're going to be aggressive. And I think that leads to turnovers. So, it led me a little bit to sniffing around this Eagles aggressive blitzing defense as one of the interesting plays for week one, amongst other things.
Well, from the betting angle, the game's at 5.5. Washington's plus 5.5 here, but getting a little bit more of the money on their side of the ball. 42.5. The money is just all coming in on the under. So there's not a ton of excitement probably in the passing game from the market here, but the running backs here are interesting on both sides of the ball. I think you're going to see some ownership because you've got cheap running backs here that could potentially be pretty solid.
I loves me some Miles Sanders week one. And I just mentioned the Eagles defense. What a beautiful secondary stack we could start off our lineups with, even in cash. I don't like to pay up for defense in cash games, in fairness, but like Sanders, Eagles D, good little combo right there. Eagles D gets a turnover, 15-yard line. Sanders smashes it home, touchdown, maybe a second one. Not much going on in the passing game for the Eagles with Rager out and pretty much J.J. Arcega-Whiteside as the top dog. That's weird. And really Ertz and Goddard going to be the guys. So I think we're going to see a lot of two tight end formations from the Eagles, which could lead to, a really, really great game from Miles Sanders on that side of it. Do you see Sanders as one of the best? I mean, are you with me there? I think Sanders is one of the best running back plays for week one.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the better plays of the week. I don't know. I'm looking right now at my numbers from last year, just from an offensive rushing versus defensive rushing for this team. So, I mean, Washington against the rush was just one of the worst teams in football last year. So I understand where that's coming from. I'm just hoping the market isn't too crazy here on Sanders. I think they should be somewhere in the 20 to 25% DraftKings in the millie, which I think is fair. I think that's reasonable. I think if it starts getting crazy, you're going to want to be under. So I think that's the number you want to use if you're MME. If you're high on Sanders, I think then you want to get yourself, the 30 to 40 range. If you're not as high, then you're going to want to be in the 10 to 15. If you just want to stick around the market, get yourself in around 25% on Sanders there. So that's how you have to look at it. Again, we'll get into more details when we do the podcast later in the week as to which way I'm gonna lean. But I think it's fair. I think he's fair at around 20 to 25%.
There we go, and that's about what the market is projecting, or what we're projecting as his ownership here. The other player, I guess, from a daily fantasy perspective that interests me is Terry McLaurin. I do think that with this idea of Washington playing a little more aggressive, Terry McLaurin came out week 1 last season, rookie year, and went bananas, broke the slate wide open. Pretty much if you had him or Sammy Watkins last week 1, you won $1 million. That's how you won it. So, on paper, I don't see anything bad about a matchup against the Eagles. It's not exactly a high-scoring projection, but with the lack of running back options for the Redskins and the Eagles' propensity to stop the run, which they are an excellent team versus the run, I actually think Antonio Gibson is potentially a bad chalk trap, but I do want to talk about, we have to bring up Antonio Gibson, who I think is going to be wildly popular in week 1 as a DFS play, and also Terry McLaurin, who probably has a pretty great matchup here that might get overlooked. So give me an idea of your thoughts on both of those guys. Is Antonio, is he good chalk or is he bad chalk? Because I think he's going to be owned.
Yeah, I would lean towards bad chalk. And he's going to be owned maybe nearly as much as Sanders. They're going to be two of the higher owned players on the schedule this week. So I would be a little bit more caught, because Philly was not terrible here against the run last year.
They were very good. They were good. Excellent.
So Philly against the run, against a team that really didn't run the ball all that well in Washington. I know things have changed. But, yeah, I could see this game becoming more where Washington's got to throw the ball. Could be a game that could be the game flow here. And you sort of, we just don't get enough carries out of Gibson. And who's to say that he gets all the carries here in this game? I mean, do we know? I mean, is Bryce Love going to get?
Well, I mean, they listed. I don't think it's going to be Love. Love has some injury stuff, but they listed J.D. McKissick as the starter for this one.
All right, so maybe it will be all Gibson then.
I don't think it's going to be all Gibson for sure. I think McKissick is a veteran, and Gibson is a rookie. We don't know if he can pass protect. We don't know if he can actually. He's ran like 33 times in his entire college career. I cannot imagine that Gibson gets up the gut action or a lot of it. I think it's going to be Gibson on some kind of like the Chris Thompson level designed pass plays to the running back, which can be very, very sexy and very, very fantasy productive touches, where you'll see maybe McKissick just kind of taking the dirty work and smashing up the middle against an Eagles defense that is very, very good against that style and approach. So I do think Gibson, he's interesting for a reason. He's kind of going to be high owned for a reason. I think he'll get
he's 4,000. So
yeah. More of a DraftKings play, but I'm still on the fence, man. I can't tell. Good chalk and bad chalk is the hardest thing to distinguish. I want to see how high owned. If his ownership is going to go over 15-20%, I'm probably going to just hope that it's bad chalk and stay away. I think that may be the way I choose to play this one. All right. Anything else going on here? Not too much other excitement. Let's move on to another game that I'm actually really personally excited to watch and see, just because I love my man Lamar Jackson, and I love this Baltimore offense and how they are so aggressive regardless of score. It's the best. It's so reliable. They just keep the foot on the gas, pressed all the way down. They're beating Miami 41-0. They don't care. They're going for 48-0. I mean, that's what the Ravens are doing right now. They're taking on They're taking on the Browns. 48.5-point game total. Heavy favorite, Baltimore -8. We've got a revived and revamped Browns offense under a real coaching staff this season, which is nice and helpful for Baker Mayfield, who was basically having to run the team by himself last year, with no help from a very inexperienced and over their head coaching staff, Freddie Kitchens and company. So are we underestimating what the Browns can be? Or are they going to be as shitty as they were last season offensively?
Offensively, I think they'll be better. I think Baker improves here a little bit. Let me just give you the rundown on what's going on in the betting market first. But where we're seeing all the action is on Cleveland.
So the money is coming in on Cleveland.
Yeah, the money's coming in on Cleveland. The total, not so much. It's pretty it's pretty even, slightly more on the over. But the money's coming in on Cleveland. I tend to agree with that. Again, it goes back to my early in the season. The teams that were really good last year tend to get overvalued this year. So I tend to like taking the points here in that situation with Cleveland. Generally, those teams are not nearly as good as we remember them being last year, and the teams that were bad are not nearly as bad. So you can make money early in the season on those type of angles. The 8 points is a lot. The home field advantage, as we talked about earlier, non-existent. So I like 8 points on a neutral site.
I'm like, I don't agree. Am I Joe Q public that's like 8 points isn't enough? The Ravens can't be stopped. They will score every fucking possession. They're that good. Like
Cleveland. Cleveland's the reason, right? Cleveland did Cleveland beat them last year in one of the early matchup? I'm trying to remember now. Did they beat them 1 week? Was that one of Cleveland's?
I can't recall. I don't remember them. No, I don't remember them beating them. But you could be right. I don't remember.
I don't remember now. But the Cleveland passing, their pass defense wasn't terrible on the whole. I believe they held teams to like an 89 passer rating on defense.
I remember when the Patriots played the Ravens, and we said they've got a pretty good run defense and good pass defense. And then the fucking Ravens went off for like 40 points. So I'm going to go – I won't put this one on the board, bro, because I want to take the other side of that. Now we got two.
Okay.
Right? Here's my thing. The Ravens can't be stopped. I'm a believer, okay? I'm in the church of Harbaugh, and I'm in the congregation of Lamar in this one. I think they do something that is unstoppable. The way they attack the field, the way they stretch it, I don't think you can stop them. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but the recipe has not been found outside of an equally intense offensive performance, which I'm not quite sure that the Browns have in them right now. I do like Chubb and his style of running against the Baltimore aggressive defense because, he's just the smash mouth guy. That's good for a counter to the aggressive blitzing Baltimore pressure defense that we're going to see a little bit. But overall, if Baltimore is doing what Baltimore do, then they're going to be scoring pretty much every time they touch the football, and they are going to be getting turnovers against this Cleveland. I think the line is almost, I think I'm fine with it. I believe. So what you said is correct. Like, is recency bias making us love the Ravens more than we should? And I'm of the mind that no, I think that it's correct. Like, we should love them that much because what they do, especially in the regular season, offensively, is unstoppable. You might be able to plan for it, in the playoffs when you get a little bit extra time to game plan for one team, but I think they're unstoppable. But that's a ridiculous approach, but I just think that.
Well, Cleveland had a tough time against the run last year. So, but you talked about he did have a 165-yard game and 3 touchdowns against Baltimore last year. In I believe their first matchup.
So he did have a great game.
He had one great game against them, and then he had one. I believe he had one great game and one terrible game. I'd have to look that up. But the second time they played, they had no Garrett on Cleveland, so he'll be back for this game, and I'm sure he's pretty anxious to get back on the field after the suspension that he had. So,
should we? Should we address the Odell Beckham situation here? I kind of think. No. I kind of think no. I don't believe it. So
that's actually my that's my baseball fantasy team name. So I use Cleveland Steamers on quite a bit of my team. So
I'm not going to address it. I don't believe it.
Yeah, let's not even talk about it. But Baltimore beefed up the deep. Baltimore realized, hey, I think offensively we're pretty solid here. And then the offseason they addressed a lot of issues on defense. So we'll see how they come out. They drafted a couple of linebackers. They added a couple other pieces on the front. So they're going to try to get better at stopping teams against running the ball against them. They weren't that great. They were below average against passing, teams passing on them and rushing on them. They're going to have to get better at getting to the passer. So we'll see if the additions that they had this year help or not. But yeah, like you said, I mean, you can't dislike anything related to rushing again on the Baltimore side of the ball. Chubb's always going to be a play. I don't mind Chubb at all here in this matchup. Of course, the fear game flow goes against you. They don't have to use Chubb. And we didn't even mention Hooper now. So we talked about Hooper over in Atlanta. Hooper's now over in with the Browns. I don't know. I'm expecting. I like teams. I like the story. I like going against that. Like the Browns last year, I loved going against because that was just all anyone wanted to talk about. And now I think you find value where things shift. There's a pendulum.
Everybody against them. Yeah, you want to be against the grain there.
Yeah, because now we're just totally going to be too far against. These are one of those things where I'd say if that's your view, like last year, if you had the view that this is just an overrated team, people are talking about them too much, then you made money betting against this team until the market was able to catch up. Now, if you take the opposite view to that this season and say, you know what, everyone's down on this team now, I'm going to start betting this team early in the season and taking a shot that the market's not going to catch up. These are the kind of things I'm talking about where, from a betting standpoint, you can do. Have that view. You've got different views that you may have on different teams, different players, or whatever the case may be, and then take advantage of that in the betting markets or in the fantasy markets.
There we go. And you are definitely better at picking NFL winners and losers against the spread than I am. So definitely listen to John, not to me, on a lot of these takes. He is the guy I go to when I need to ask questions about this stuff. Definitely the guy to listen to with this thing. Now, if you are correct, and again, we're spending a lot of time on this game, but if you are correct and Cleveland is more competitive, I agree. I think that you're going to see Chubb will be lost in this game. If Cleveland gets smashed, Chubb will have a terrible game. That's as simple as that. That's why Nick Chubb cannot be played in cash games, because he's just not going to do well if Cleveland isn't in the game, or even winning the game, or at least staying in it and keeping it close. That's where Chubb will shine. And the commenters are correctly pointing out that Chubb had a big game when Cleveland beat the Ravens in week 4 last season. But the passing game is a better place to attack the Ravens defense, especially explosive pass catchers. So that's where Odell and certainly Landry come into play. Really interesting overall. I think Marquise Brown, of all of the pieces on both teams, is going to be wildly popular this week. He's actually underpriced quite a bit on DraftKings relative to what I would say would be the expectations. So Marquise Brown should be chalk, and I think it's good chalk. 5,100.
He's another high variance guy.
Well, we might see a different version of him this year, right? The idea is the foot is healthy. Maybe we're going to see a different version of him. Last season, it was actually Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews who went crazy week 1 in the stack, and that's how you won the million. No one played it, but that's how you won the million if you did. We'll see how that comes together, but I definitely like Baltimore a lot overall. Lamar Jackson is your cash game quarterback. If you can find a way to make the salary work, he's going to get you 25 plus, and you can't really rely on any other quarterback to do that almost as a lock situation, which is what we'll get from Jackson. And I kind of like the running game for Baltimore here as well. I think Mark Ingram is going to go overlooked I think he's the starter. I think he's going to score a touchdown in this game, and I like Mark Ingram as well.
Baltimore held teams to a 77.5 passer rating last year. It was second best in the league.
No, they're very good defensively, which is it's not. If you're playing the Cleveland side of this game, it's super contrarian. No one's going to play it. They're heavy underdogs, and Baltimore's defense is just very, very good. There's no denying that it was great last year, and it was not a team you wanted to target players against, especially as the season progressed, which is why I think that early season game less important than what was happening late in the year, which is just extreme domination across the board from this Baltimore team. All right, let's move on. It's funny. I'm using a screen for odds. I'm using the domination station, and every time it updates, it changes the order. I didn't realize that happens on the team screen, so I'm having to remember who we talked about and who we haven't so far. But let me bring up another game that I think is going to be very exciting, very interesting. We've got the Cardinals taking on the 49ers. Did we talk about this game?
We have not.
All right, good. So we've got the Cardinals taking on the 49ers. 49ers coming in 7-point favorites. 48-point game total is pretty high. Now, here's what's interesting, John, about this game for me. Last year, the Cardinals played the 49ers really well. They put up numbers in both of those games, but no one else really did. So the 49ers defense, spectacular, but they did seem to have a little bit of weakness for the Cardinals. Can you see another situation where a low-owned Cardinals team can, beat this 7-point spread? Do we want action on the underdog side of this game, assuming that the Cardinals kind of come in and can do what they did last season? And also from a DFS perspective, do we have interest in Kyler Murray, again, in a on paper worst possible matchup?
Well, when I was doing my analysis for the Super Bowl last year, I actually went back and looked at those two Arizona games because I wanted to see just what Arizona was doing against San Francisco to be so successful. And they have a tough time stopping the quarterbacks who can run, right? Because their pass rush, like they get to the guys who can't get out of the pocket. They could get to those guys. They have a pretty good pass rush. The guys who run around the field, they struggled with, and they struggled with Murray last season. So I love getting some pieces here of Arizona against the defense that was dominant last year. People are going to be shy to get on them. I would like to. I would not mind taking a little bit of Arizona in this game. They scored a ton of points against. They were the best offense against San Francisco all season, and they did it twice.
Yeah, and the other. I mean, it was weird, and I don't know if that's variance or I don't know if that's something else. Like we don't know if they can repeat it. Kenyon Drake, spectacular in 2 games against 49ers last year, and no one did well at running back against the 49ers. So again, I don't know if it's variance. I don't know if that was just, hey, we've got a formula that we can look good against this team. We'll have to see. Definitely tournament only for me, but I think you could play the pieces of Arizona in tournaments, super low owned. If you're playing the Arizona pieces, you absolutely want to bring them back with players from the 49ers in this game, because if Arizona is scoring, 49ers can turn up the heat. So here's how the 49ers operate, very much like Seattle, very much like a few teams talk about. They want to run the football, John. They want to smash it. They want to smash it in your face. They want to run the football. George Kittle out there screaming, run it again. I'll never forget. One of the things I do to prep for these games is I like to watch whatever game is on the mic'd up each week. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. They'll put those games on the mic'd up after the fact, and you can listen to an entire mic'd up game or two. The NFL will have a number of games each week that are mic'd up, right? And I remember watching the San Francisco mic'd up game, and I was just shocked at how the whole team didn't, like, you have George Kittle, run it again. You're like, wait a minute, bro. Aren't you a pass catcher? Because Odell Beckham, he's like, yo, give me the ball. This guy, he's a tight end. He's like, run it again. And all they want to do, they're so excited to run the football in San Francisco. So, right off the bat, I mean, Raheem Mostert going to be the starter. how does he not smash a touchdown or two in this one?
You would definitely think so. But in those games against Arizona, it was really Jimmy G was the key in those games because it was so high scoring and the game became up tempo.
There it is. That's the point. But if the opposing team starts to score, then they have to activate Garoppolo. Okay,
And Jimmy can do it.
He can do it. He's going to throw to George Kittle because they got nobody to throw to.
They're young at wide receiver. You don't have Emmanuel Sanders not there now. So yeah, Kittle's the go-to guy. You know, what's interesting is Arizona was actually more efficient running the ball than San Francisco. We know how good San Francisco was at running the ball, but from an efficiency standpoint, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that their quarterback can run the ball. So their yards per carry were inflated there because of that. But in this scenario, I mean, I like Murray, and we haven't even mentioned the elephant in the room. They've got a new weapon in Arizona, who's pretty solid at wide receiver.
You know, I don't think anybody can cover DeAndre Hopkins. I don't care what your name is, who you are, but I think the bigger weapon of Arizona, and I think the reason that they're able to play well against this San Francisco team is the general spread the football philosophy that they use. 4 wide receivers on the field simultaneously doesn't allow San Francisco maybe to do what they're really good at, which is loading up in the box and pressuring the quarterback. Because think about it, you know, yeah, is Andy Isabella very good? I don't know, but he's on the outside. You got to cover him. You got DeAndre Hopkins over here. Oh, you got him covered. You want to double team him? All right. Well, here's Christian Kirk. Here's even Larry Fitzgerald, the old man. He's out there doing his thing. And if you want to cover all those guys, you got the Dreezy in space in the middle of the field. So it was Kenyon Drake that was the key to their success last year, because once San Francisco was able to get coverage on all of these wide receivers, you've got Drake and you've got the threat of the run from Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray reminds me of Russell Wilson a little bit. Fairness, okay? Similar guys, right? So it's too much to defend when Arizona is clicking, which is why they were able to do this last season a little bit. Could be a better version of Arizona's offense. So let's see what happens here. But I think for tournaments, I'm not afraid of getting some pieces of this Arizona offense. And if I'm using them, I want offensive skill players from the 49ers building around a certain game flow where, you know, Arizona's scoring and the 49ers have to play catch up. That's George Kittle, maybe Kendrick Bourne approach. Of course.
How many times, if you play season-long fantasy, how many times, I mean, we know, like, everything you've been taught in season-long fantasy, like, take your kicker and defense late. But inevitably, someone takes their defense early because they need that dominant defense. And how many times did you take, you know, where teams like Jacksonville the year after they were dominant and went to the AFC Championship, and then they were trash.
They were just not good anymore. Yeah, that happens.
It happens. Yeah. Now, you never expect it. I don't think it's going to happen. They look, you know, they're returning their backfield. They're returning all those guys again. You just don't know. But don't be afraid to take Arizona in this matchup from a DFS standpoint. I would not.
I was almost going to save one sneaky play for the VIP only here, but you know it's week 1. We'll share it. Jerick McKinnon is getting a lot of praise right now in that San Francisco coaching staff, and he's back. We all forgot about him. It's been a while. It's been a minute. Since he was J-Rock McPwinnon taking out, you know, winning tournaments for people a couple seasons ago. But he's back. He's healthy. And I think McKinnon could be a sneaky little play here. Again, assuming that the initial game flow of just the 49ers smashing with the run and dominating this game with their defense goes out the table, and we wind up with a more high-octane passing attack from both teams. I think McKinnon could be involved on that from the 49ers side. So keep that in mind as you are building lineups this week. Have we discussed Tampa, New Orleans yet?
We have not. That's a big one. Okay.
It's an hour and 49 minutes in, and we're getting to the sexiest game on the entire slate from a fantasy, from a stacking, from a game theory perspective. So for those of you who are still with us, I'm impressed. Well done. Now we're getting to the sexiest game on the slate. So glad you stuck around here. We've got the Saints, 3.5-point favorites, led by Drew Brees, taking on Tom Brady, the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, new outfit, new costume, new uniform, new receivers, new stat, new everything. We all love Tom Brady. We all love Drew Brees. Hall of Fame quarterbacks. This is a great matchup. I'm excited to watch this one. Now, the 49-point total, the close spread, everything here says load up on this game, stack it up, stack it in, everything, go crazy. As a bonus, John, this is just a little bonus. Both of these teams were elite against the run, not just last season, but for multiple seasons in a row, meaning we can project that the action is going to be via the pass. There's no better setup in DFS, in fantasy, in anything than what we're seeing here this week, outside of the fact that Tom Brady's with a new team and we have no idea how he's going to look. So, number one, from a betting angle point of view,
from the betting
what's
angle,
going on here? Yeah.
From the betting angle, Tampa's getting a little bit more money than New Orleans. I think that's. I think most people will be able to predict that. They're getting all the buzz this year. And the other thing is all of the money, and I mean almost all of it, is coming in on the over.
On the over. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So people are anticipating this being a shootout. I mean, understandable from everything you just said. The Tampa defense, to me, better than most people gave them credit for. You have to understand also how many bad situations did Winston put them in last year. I mean, I don't remember exactly how many. What did he throw? About 30 interceptions last year? I mean, it was more. It was insanity.
He was the king of the pick six.
Ton of pick sixes. Your defense is, we talked about it before, depending on who your quarterback is how good your defense is going to look a lot of times. This is a better defense than people are giving them credit for, which is why it kind of annoys me that Brady is here now and Gronk is here, because this was a team I was going to be hammering all year because they were going to go under the radar. Now it's a team that is the most talked about team in football. So it's a little annoying. I still think they might be a little underrated from a betting standpoint. I spoke about it earlier from a DFS standpoint. I think you're going to see lower numbers across the board from Tampa. I think the quarterback, Brady, I don't think is going to be as good fantasy-wise as Winston. Despite the, interceptions will be the only improvement that you're going to get there. I don't think he throws for as many yards. I don't think he throws for as many touchdowns. You've got a lot of weapons there, which means a lot of guys to share the ball. I don't think Godwin is as good in that situation as he was necessarily with Winston. So, do I think they're going to be bad? Absolutely not. I think from a betting standpoint, I think I still like this team. I think it's a team that could go far. From a fantasy standpoint, I think we may be a little, and it's not going to be terrible. I don't expect awful things. I just think we're a little bit overhyped on the offensive side. That said, as well, in this game in particular, the defensive side, I think the defense is going to be pretty solid here. So I think in this particular game, we may also be overvaluing the New Orleans side of the ball. Now, you've got stars there with Kamara and Thomas. So again, you don't want to go all out fading Thomas in any one game. He's the main guy in the passing game there. And Kamara, we know, can do tremendous things, but I would be hesitant certainly on Kamara. I'm more bullish here on the Thomas side on this game as opposed to Kamara. The Tampa absolutely shut people down.
This is the same. This is the same Tampa defense that shut down Christian McCaffrey in week 3 of last season, won me $29K in a showdown. That's right. By fading McCaffrey, or not fading him, but just not playing him in a couple of lineups. That one happened to be the nuts. So they can shut down this style of running back. That's very important to be aware of. And Kamara's only going to get, 14 opportunities to put up a big number. Easy fade for me.
Yeah, I agree there on the Kamara. I'm fine being underweight Kamara. Thomas is going to be tricky because if he becomes the entire offense, even if the offense doesn't do as well as anticipated, he's still going to put up big numbers. So I'd be hesitant to necessarily be very much under the market on Thomas. I think he's the best fantasy option in this entire game, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, love Mike Thomas. And again, the specialty of the Bucs was not necessarily they weren't terrible against the pass. They were just facing a lot of just passing work, but last season. But no one can stop Michael Thomas. No one stopped him last year. I'm going to add in Manny Sanders for a discount. I love that. Cook, the Tampa defense is actually kind of vulnerable to tight ends a little bit, so you got to bring Jared Cook into the mix. There's a lot of action, and what I love about this game, I love that the running backs for neither team is really going to be stay away from the running backs, guys. We're going to stick with the passing offenses for both of these teams, and I do have a little sniff of a thought in contrarian tournament, Millie Maker winning sort of potential to roll out Saints defense in a spot or two. Don't get crazy, because all the hype is on this game. All the hype is on Brady, but Brady is a 43-year-old quarterback learning a different system. It's very difficult to teach an old dog new tricks, and it's just possible that he's just not comfortable with these new wide. Brady always needed to feel there was a narrative about the Patriots for many years that they kind of start slow and then they kind of pick up their shit. And that was true from an offensive standpoint. A lot of times the Patriots start slow. They weren't getting you those 30-point games until like week 4 or 5 of the season. It took a while to mesh because of what a strict system they run over there. Now you got Brady learning something new. It's a different, we just don't know. There are enough unknowns here, combined with a home Saints defense that it's pretty good, and they could rush the passer, and they've had big scoring games, turnovers. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if a miscommunication led to a pick six. That happens with a new quarterback on a new team, especially one like Brady, who when Brady knows if the safety goes deep, you're supposed to cut in here. And like if the player doesn't do what Brady thinks he's going to do, they're not on the same page. He's going to throw it somewhere. He's going to throw it somewhere that the guy is supposed to be but isn't. So those are possibilities for me.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. The Millie Maker will not have a stack from this game, either side.
There it is.
And there won't be a player. I'll take it further. There won't be a player from either side in the winning lineup for the Millie will not have a player, except I'll throw the defenses out. I'm talking offense here. We won't get anyone in this game.
All right. Let me expand on that, because let's take a minute to really get into DFS strategy here. Why won't the Millie Maker have a player from this team?
I mean, it's just from my analysis of the game. Certainly, they're one of the favorite. Both sides here are going to be favorite plays. I think just historically, we'll see. You're going to be surprised at who the Millie Maker is. Certainly in week 1, like who the Millie stack is. Let's just say we're going to be surprised. I can come up with scenarios and reasons why it won't be this game, and I feel very confident that it's not going to be this game as that one.
All right. So to be clear. And because I would argue that you're making 150 lineups. There's a $4 million tournament on FanDuel. There's a $5 $1 million entry tournament on DraftKings this week. So we're going to load up. We're going to make 150 lineups and give ourselves a shot for $750 at taking down $1 million. This is going to be the most popular game on the slate to stack. Not just to stack, but to play pieces from. It's the highest projected. It's a close spread. It has the dynamic of neither team can really run the football.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. I think the defenses are both underrated here. I think the offense for Tampa is going to be slightly overrated. So, I mean, that's my logic going into it. I think we're going to find. I wish I could tell you exactly which stack it was going to be, but I think we're going to find it somewhere else on this big slate.
Somebody just emailed in.
Are they even on the? What is that game? Is that's part of the slate? Yeah, it's the 425. I'm like,
John, like just before the show, I was reading an email in from somebody, a DFS Army subscriber, and they wrote, I'm looking at the tournament, and I'm having a difficult time looking your cheat sheet. I'm having a little trouble understanding this. I see 2 players listed as really good plays. Which one of them is going to win me the $1 million? I was like, I can't tell the difference between, and I'm like, I don't know. That's why we list dollars of plays. But, on that note, part of the deal, if I'm going up against 1 million lineups in a $5 tournament. There's 1 million of them. And let's say 35% of them will have some form of this game stacked. Here's the issue when you say, we're not going to win $1 million with it. Is it possible that this is the highest scoring game and that it does wind up in the Millie Maker winner? It is. But if you stack it, you've still got to beat out another 400,000 lineups that all did something similar, that all had some exposure. Because let's say Breeze is going to be 25% owned. Let's say Brady will be 15% owned. And all of that will be built around stacks in this game. That totals 40% of entries have some exposure to this game on one side or another, or both. So how do you distinguish yourself enough? Like, did I cut? Would you rather do that? Yes, they're likely to score very highly, but now I've got to still beat 400,000 other lineups elsewhere. Or can you find a different game, maybe cheaper players, maybe something else much less popular, where you're only going up against 10,000 other lineups or 30,000, like a 3% own, or something like that, where essentially if you're right about the stack, now your competition field goes from 400,000 to 30,000, or some number that's much, much lower.
And it's why using that second option sometimes in a stack as opposed to wide receiver one really pushes you to because when it does hit, there's very few people who have that stack, and now you're competing against a very small number of people.
Or heavy game stacking, which is less common, although not as less common now after a couple of years of talking about it as it had been, but where you go with 4 or 5 players from one game.
Yeah, we'll get into more of the theories on the other podcast, but
that's right.
I've got some other opinions on that.
Absolutely. And for those of you guys who are watching this, the Geeks Vegas Lines is going to be public every single week. We will have this right here on this YouTube channel, on this podcast link. Make sure you like and subscribe to it. You will get our breakdowns, our Vegas Lines analysis. And for those of you who want to subscribe to DFS Army as VIP members, you can use my promo code GEEK. We've got a preseason special going where you get 20% off your monthly dues. The dues have not gone up for VIP. They are in the next week or two. I'm begging you. Do it now. Sign up, code GEEK. You'll get it for $39.99 a month. There's no better deal in DFS. Not just deal. We don't do it for the deal. We keep the price down because we want the regular Joes to compete on a level playing field with pros. That is our motto, and that's what we are about. You can go to the sites. You can pay $89.99 a month to get the optimizer, the projections, the cheat sheet. It exists. Not as good as us, but we are not priced below that because we're anything other than I like having regular players. We're not trying only to appeal to pro players. We're trying to set a price that's affordable enough so that a regular person can get in there like Bobby Wow did last year, like Team Money did last season, won a 7-figure prize using the tools. And, we just love that. So get in there today, and we do more in-depth DFS-focused breakdowns, and John will do a very, very in-depth sports gambling-focused article each week. We'll give you his actual final NFL plays. If you go to sportsbetarmy.com and sign up there, same deal, promo code GEEK gets you 20% off over there as well. So that's sportsbetarmy.com. We're going to teach you the tools of the trade and help you be successful. All right, I believe we are in the last game of the regular slate. We're 2 hours in of the main slate. We've got the Bengals and the Chargers. Very low total, 43 points. Chargers road 3.5-point favorites. Again, I can't tell if John, are they baking in the home? Road 3.5-point favorites. That sounds about right, though.
No, that's discounting the home. They would be a smaller favorite under normal conditions. Yeah. A lot of people think Cincinnati might be a little bit better. We'll see. The new quarterback, tough situation when you don't have any preseason games, but we'll see. I tend to like Burrow. Does he come out week 1, and just light it up? I don't know, but I think they have a good. I like that choice at the quarterback. I think they're moving in the right direction over there. I just don't know how excited I'm going to be here in week 1 to take it. But then again, as we just went on about with the last game, you never know where that surprise stack's going to come from. So could it possibly be here?
You'd almost
maybe.
in if you're going for the millie. All right, we're gonna get a little into strategy. If you're going for the millie, you almost want to go for games that look a little ugly on paper because no one's gonna stack it. Again, 40% of the field on one game, so we can do different things. And this is one of them. Listen, on paper, this doesn't look good for a DFS. No. The Chargers are one of the slowest paced teams in the NFL. And it's worse with Tyrod Taylor at the helm, who's one of the slowest paced quarterbacks. His incidence of throwing over 30 targets in a single game is something in the 20% range for his career. It's very low. He does not want to throw a lot. I think this game really appeals to me from the running back side for both running backs. More so Eckler, who's priced up a little bit here, but I think, you would expect the Chargers to come in here and kind of lean on Eckler.
Yeah, that's another guy who's been really hyped up in the offseason. Yeah, I've seen in these drafts. I
mean, didn't you see the picture of him? He was ripped. Like, the dude is he looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at those kind of pictures.
You don't look at the picture?
As,
I do.
Why
am I looking at pictures of Hayden Hurst? Guys, all offseason, I'm looking at, like, ripped pictures of DK Metcalf, Hayden Hurst, and they were kind of sexy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, listen, I get it. I mean, it's 2020 and to each his own. I'm certainly not going to knock you for your, for
That's
for
the stuff I look at. I don't know what you look at. That's what I look at.
I look at a lot of numbers, man. I'm not.
Oh.
I'm trying not to look at these guys with their shirts off all that much. But, again, to each his own, man. I'm not knocking you.
I have my way of analyzing the games. You have yours, bro. That's it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. I don't even want to hear more about that. But I think this game is. I mean, for the most part, I think we can. There's not a lot to see here in this game. I know Mixon's getting a lot of love in fantasy drafts as far as season long. Like I said, Eckler, I think is being, in my opinion, I think he's going to be overrated here this year compared to he had a monster season last year. So I that's one of the views I'm taking on a long-term view. So if I have that view, then I think in week one, he's going to most certainly be overrated. So I'm going to want to be under Eckler in this game. So nothing's really exciting me. I'm going to have little bits and pieces, certainly in the millie because you kind of have to. And, if it's a Joe Burrow is the millie, if that's the millie maker and he's the guy, I'm going to have a couple of pieces of it, but more than likely, if someone in this game, if this game becomes the big game, more than likely, I will not be winning $1 million.
I think it's fine to not play a game if it doesn't look very sexy. And again, I mean, the biggest challenge here, I do like the reason I'm interested in Eckler is mostly because, yeah, I get that the Bengals are an improved offense, better quarterback or whatever, but they still have that really bad defense from last year. And I just know that the Chargers are going to want to lean on the run with Tyrod Taylor at the helm. That's just what teams do with Tyrod Taylor at the helm. They don't want to let him throw. They want to run it. So I do know that. I like Eckler a little bit more, but again, going to watch the ownerships and understand. Is there a betting angle here with a new team and, 3.5 point spread, 43 point total? I'm not seeing anything like off to me that tells me. And guys, I'm going to address something here in a second also, but I want to get to the betting angle. Is there anything going on here that says I want to put money on this game?
There's nothing that stands out to me outside of the fact, I would say between, if you had to take this game, you're in an office pool or something like that, you're going to want to just take the points, I think, in this one. But there's nothing that grabs my attention right off the bat and says, there's a great angle here. There's really not. There's too many unknowns in this game to get me overly confident one way or the other. Like I said, if I was forced to pick the game, give me the points. I'll take Cincinnati. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about it.
I want to address something that people are saying in the comments section, and I agree with. So when we talked about Saints-Bucks game as the sort of sexy, exciting game of the week, guys were like, wait, it's not going to be Seattle-Atlanta. And I think those are the two top ones. With it's funny, my take is that the Saints-Bucks game will be the more owned one. That's sort of my general take. But maybe I'm wrong. John, do you think that it's the Bucks game that's going to be the most popular, Or do we think Seattle, Atlanta will actually garner the most stack ownership, will be about equal? And would you philosophically say the same thing that you said about Saints Bucks, where it's like, hey, if this is going to be one of the most popular games, we probably almost want to avoid it and just like play something else in the
Well,
middle.
here, especially in football, I'm going to try to say this right. So after we just talked about Tampa and the Saints, it's not so much that I'm worried about the ownership in the stack, especially in stacks. Again, I'll try to make it quick. So that's going to be a highly owned game. Yes, the Seattle Atlanta game is going to be highly owned, right? But it's relatively low owned once you start figuring in the exact stack that you're gonna take. So I have no problem in taking games that are going to be highly stacked. Where my fear is, I can see way more scenarios in that Tampa New Orleans game that I want to fade than I can in the Seattle Atlanta. Like, I like that Seattle Atlanta game better than I like the Tampa New Orleans game. So just to be clear, I'm not ever going to be worried about taking the top necessarily stack. And when I say the top stack, just meaning the game that's going to be stacked. I may alter that again by taking the tight end or the wide receiver 2, or maybe even stacking in the running back, or taking 2 wide receivers with 1 wide receiver from the other. However I'm going to do it. I'm not going to shy away necessarily from the game that is the most hype if I like that game. So, to be contrarian, just to be contrarian, is not necessarily the way to go. If you have a reasoning, which I feel like I do here in this Tampa New Orleans game, I'll be contrarian on that. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and we'll go into it deeper on some of the podcasts later this week on theories behind this.
Cool. I love the theory behind DFS much more so than I do love talking about specific players and specific games one week. I think that's more important, and I think it's more important to long-term winning. And when I talk to you, a guy who's won multiple 6-figure takedowns, and I don't know if everybody watching knows that, you are an authority to me. I love your takes on this stuff. So I look forward to talking about that on the Wolfpack pod with you later this week. All right. As far as the main slate goes, we have that covered unless we missed a game here. They're moving on me. So let's move on here 2 hours in to the primetime games. And we're going to cover these briefly because we'll get into depth with the primetime games a little bit later. But let's take a look at some betting angle stuff first, and just a little bit of DFS. I have not looked at these games personally in depth yet either. But looks like Sunday Night Football, very, very exciting game. Cowboys-Rams. Cowboys favored by 3 on the road. Anything from a betting angle happening there? Are bets even happening on this game yet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course. It's actually about 2-1 the money on the Rams side.
Okay, so people taking the points. People taking the points.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that as well. And they're playing the under 51.5 at about 85% clip. So we're seeing a lot of action on the under, some action on the Rams. I thought this game was the Cowboys are always one of those teams that are going to be, the hype's always going to be there with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are a solid team. I thought the 3 points stuck out to me when I first saw the lines as being a bit high. So, yeah, I can understand why the Rams are seeing some of the action here.
A lot of hype around the Cowboys. They've got CeeDee Lamb in there. They've added, I would actually say that Dak Prescott has just taken the leap to elite quarterback, whereas last season, this time of year, we were kind of like, is Dak really good? We're not sure yet. I think we're pretty sure he's good now. And this clearly is along the lines of what you had said with discounting the home team, because there's no way if the Rams are at home, this isn't a pick 'em.
Right. Yeah, that's what you're seeing what appear to be unusual lines early, and that's what you're going to see all year long.
I love your idea of playing the under here, John. That is the kind of wisdom we get from an experienced and seasoned, grizzled old sports gambling veteran.
All right, man.
Grizzly old one, wrinkled. Because the reality is, we know that Dallas, as much as we're excited about their passing game this year, is known for slowing games down. Zeke, 5 yards, three possessions. The first quarter, the first half is gone. You're like, what the hell happened here? I'm watching the game. They told me it's going to be a 52-point total. It's 10-0 Dallas. It's halftime. I'm fucked. I lost all my money in DFS. I bet everything on this game going to the over. So I love the contrarian thought of playing to the under, where you have two sexy teams, but when you think about their play style, yeah, like, again, Dallas wants to slow that game down. You don't want to be, you really, offensive pieces against Dallas has not been a winning play for the last couple seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily like the under. I'm kind of I'm kind of going back and forth with it, but the market certainly loves the under in this game. So we'll just say the market agrees with what your logic is on this game. I do, from a fantasy standpoint, I like the passing in this game more than I like the more than the rushing side of this game, and it, especially on the Rams side. I think the Rams are going to be able to move the ball through the air. So this will be on mostly showdown type of
it's a one game slate. So the only players we're comparing here is Cooper Kupp, or am I taking Cooper Kupp, or am I taking CeeDee Lamb? You know what I mean? Like, is this Robert Woods, or is this Amari Cooper? So we're dealing with a compare. This is only a showdown. Actually, I bet I have to look. I bet there's a 3-game big contest that takes the 2 primetime games.
Yeah,
that
they
covers
might.
Sunday and Monday night.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Have that.
Guys, save some mental energy for this game and the 2 Monday nighters. There's going to be like a 2-game slate. There might be a 3-game slate. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's almost like a whole nother week. It's like a Thanksgiving 3-game bonanza with what's going on the prime times this week. So let's touch on the Monday night games real quick. I don't want to get too crazy. Again, I have not dived deep into these games, but the first one is Pittsburgh at the Giants. And man, I loves me some fresh Pittsburgh players week 1. I don't know how you can't be excited. It's a 47.5-point total. Pittsburgh 5.5-point spread. I like the Giants. I just love the offense in this game. I like it to play to the over.
Well, let's see. Let me. I gotta go find this one on the board. It's Monday night. Here we go. Yeah, no. So we've got the money primarily came in on the Pittsburgh side, which is what moved this line to where it's at now. As far as the total, we've got all the money coming in on the under.
What?
So yeah, you like this game on the over?
I'm against the grain, baby. I love the over here.
Yeah, 47, and I mean 90% of the cash coming in on the under. Roethlisberger, that's another guy. I try to. A lot of what you do is, and I learned this in trading, is kind of feeling where the market is, where's the public on these things. You've heard me talking about that with Tampa, and just try to get a feel for the market. I feel like the market on Roethlisberger is just as low as it's ever been. Understandably, he is old. I mean, think about it. It was Rivers, Roethlisberger, and Eli, right? All coming in the league at the same time. 2 of those guys are still playing. We've talked about how old these guys are getting. So yeah, I'm not overly, I'm not ecstatic here about Roethlisberger's potential, but I do think he's been beaten down enough to the point where maybe we get some value on Roethlisberger to the upside. So yeah, Daniel Jones, all the hype in the world last year, right? People couldn't wait, because Eli, there's that contrast where Eli's been god-awful. They brought in Jones. He looked pretty good early and then kind of came back down to reality. So what do we get here? Second year from Jones.
Jones continued to, though, produce reasonable fantasy performances, even if the team was losing. So
and he had no Barkley there for a while. It was an interesting how there was a difference there when he had Barkley and didn't have Barkley. So. And how does that affect Barkley?
I think it's all good. I think there's so much good here. Barkley, he's back. He doesn't have the high ankle sprain. Maybe we'll see Barkley 2.0, the version that we expect to see out there, the explosive version, the one who could take a short pass to the house for a touchdown. Darius Slayton, the emergence. finally a healthy Evan Ingram for the Giants offense. And one of my favorite parts is the Giants defense sucks. So my expectation here is that the Giants will be allowing points to the Steelers, who have a healthy Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster back. We expect potentially a resurgence from him in this game or this season. Deontay Johnson emerged last year. And, of course, a healthy John James Terminator Connor. I always call him John Connor because John Connor's the Terminator. He's from the Terminator. It's James Connor. Right? So they have all of the players in place for both these teams, everybody healthy. It's just like, for Pittsburgh, for me, it's just this team that's always so injured. I love them week one when they're healthy. You know, how many weeks of Ben Roethlisberger are we going to get this season? What's the over-under on it? Like 4? 5 till he's hurt?
You got an interesting tight end situation there. Because they've had decent, they've had decent games out of their tight end fantasy-wise.
Eric
right?
Ebron, baby.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
Eric Ebron, a touchdown machine, right? Giants, Evan Ingram. There's a lot to like. I like the weapons. I like this game. I like to play the over. This would be a game that I love that the public is in disagreement. If we could get this, I'm looking at this game on the slate, and let's say people were excited about a different one, and this is part of like a 3-gamer or something. This is the one where I would want to load up on, probably even more so than I would want to get different from Dallas Rams and actually load up on this one. That would be my approach. If there is a 3-game primetime situation, let everybody else take that Dallas game. It's sexy, 52-point spread. I'll take this one and hope it plays to the over.
Yeah,
both sides of it. Both sides.
The problem you have if it's just the 2 if you're just playing the Monday game is that nobody likes offensively what's going to happen in the game that we're going to talk about.
No, I know. That's why I said the 3-gamer.
But if it's a 3-game slate, yeah, you definitely can find a little bit of an edge there by taking the pieces in this game. And there's some juicy ones that you like you mentioned that could go off. Connor again going into last season, he was the hottest thing going. Disappointment. Everything in Pittsburgh was disappointment. Roethlisberger goes out. Everyone becomes a fairly disappointing fantasy year. It's hard for me to even get accurate numbers here because if I'm basing everything off of last year, this game is just really it's a dud on the Pittsburgh side. But I can totally see my numbers being way off because they're based on what happened last year, and you really can't put a lot of weight onto what happened last year for Pittsburgh.
No. That was without Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger and non-Roethlisberger Steelers, 2 completely different teams. You can't compare. Throw those numbers out. That's the problem. Somebody asked me, when are we getting the Statsational power ranking sheet? And I didn't know if we were going to have it for week 1. So I was like,
I've got it. No, I've got it. I'm just tweaking it because you got to tweak. You got to move. The difficulty is adding and subtracting from teams. So I've just been going through that. I'll have it up. We'll have it up this week, certainly before the weekend.
Let's get a spot on DFS Army for that this year for the VIPs as well. So we don't necessarily have to shoot them over to the sportsbetarmy.com site to find it. Although we want you to go to sportsbetarmy.com and sign up as a VIP over there to get John's bets. So I threw that in there. But where was I? Yeah, you talked about the next game being a stinker. The 2-gamer is less exciting, although almost in the 2-gamer, you almost want to go, again, you got to get different in these if there's not that many choices. So the final game of the night, Titans taking on the Broncos. Broncos just lost Von Miller, man. That's a bummer for their team.
It is.
Broncos got a whole lot going on. Drew Lock, we don't know if he's good. We know nothing. Jerry Jeudy's there. Cortland Sutton another year in. The running back situation has changed. Melvin Gordon over there. Philip Lindsay's still there. So a lot of weapons. Low scoring projection here, 41 points, because, John, the Titans bring a horse with them that has the ability to take over a game and make it slow and make it miserable, and that is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean that's the guy in this matchup for sure. I believe no, not the highest total. Obviously, you got to throw Baltimore out. I'm just looking at my projections for the week, but they're up there in the top 3 or 4 projected for rushing, with good reason, I guess. I mean, Henry's that's the monster. That's the guy who he's one of the few backs in the league right now who gets the majority of the carries.
Got paid.
Got paid. He's the guy. So
Friday night.
Yeah, and
party's bumping.
And like you said, there's no Von Miller in this game. So I'm not terribly excited about the wide receivers in this game, the passing options on either side. Again, like you said, Drew Lock here. We don't know what we're going to get. The Tennessee defense is pretty solid. So, yeah, Henry pretty much almost matchup proof. The guy that you want, the guy that they rely on. So, yeah, what's interesting, though, you've got two games where you've got three running backs that are really good options, I think, between Barkley and Henry are two of the top running backs in the league. Connor is really juicy here as well. So that's going to be an interesting, when I sit down on Monday and start to figure out from a DFS standpoint exactly how to play it. That's going to be an interesting one.
I'm trying to see what games, like what kind of tournaments are put together. Are they 3 gamers, 2 gamers? I don't know yet. But yeah, lots of sexy running back options.
Yeah, well, if you add the 3 game, you got even more difficulty at the running back position.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much sexiness at the running back position in these primetime games. A lot of that took away from it in the main slate, actually, because a lot of your go-to running backs are not even available. Like, oh man, they're in the primetime. But yeah, I love Henry. Listen, Henry is not game flow proof in the sense that if his team falls behind massively, like they did in the playoffs that one game, then that you got to abandon the Henry. So as long as the Titans, and they're favored here, as long as the Titans are keeping it within 7 points, Henry. And my goodness, I feel sorry for the Broncos if the Titans are up by 7 or 14 late, because the 80-yard scamper is coming when the defense quits and they don't want to play anymore, and you see this monster coming at you. Would you tackle him? Because I'd be like 10, but not really. I want to get tackling Derrick Henry, in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes to go when I'm already down 14. It's like, all right, you know what?
It's not fun.
No, you don't want any of that smoke. Of course, AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith are the pieces on the Titans if they do need to throw. And AJ Brown is one of my favorite players this season, but he's going to give us up and down performances. If they don't need him, they're just going to run the shit out of it with D. Rockefeller.
I mean, I do like Cortland Sutton. Maybe not necessarily in this game, but really good young receiver. I like what I saw last year, so I do like him on the season. I'm just not 100% sure this is the game that we see the best out of Sutton.
Sutton was a big fantasy fade for me. I think he was overvalued in fantasy draft projections relative to what I think he can produce. Sutton is right up there. If you look at ADP this season, and we're getting off topic for a second here. If you look at ADP, Cortland Sutton's ahead of like DJ Shark, Terry McLaurin, and Devontae Parker, and a lot of players that I like more than Cortland Sutton, to be quite honest. So, DK Metcalf. Like, I'm taking DK Metcalf before I take Cortland Sutton.
I would agree on that because of the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but the talent. See, that's the problem with football. It's not like baseball. Like baseball, you could either hit or you can't hit. Football it's so dependent on the situation that you're in. But Sutton's talent, I think, is as good as any of these guys. It's just going to be a matter of how well his quarterback plays. If the quarterback plays well, then I think you'll see Sutton just have a monster season.
Yeah, I'm talent is one thing, but I need situation and
of course.
Give me a situation. Also, Jerry Jeudy's there, and I think Jerry Jeudy is better than Cortland Sutton. That's my opinion. That's my guy, though.
Certainly
Jerry
a popular pick. Yeah, and we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, guys. That's going to do it. This was a 2.5 hour version of the Geeks Vegas Line Show. We will not be this long generally. This is the first one of the season. So, we're going to get our shit together, so to speak, and we'll try to keep these to an hour and a half going forward. So for those of you that stuck with us this whole time, man, we appreciate you. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Podbean, you'll know for the future, hit the 1.2 or 1.5x speed to kind of hammer through this a little quicker if you want. But we love doing these. We love breaking down these games. We're excited to do them all season long right here on the Geeks Vegas Lines and DFS and Betting Angles Breakdown. So we hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, if you have any ideas or thoughts on any of these games, of course, leave a comment in the comment section below. We try to get to all of those and answer as many of them as possible. For DFS Army VIPs, There's going to be a lot more podcast action. We do not stop during NFL season. Every single showdown, we're breaking down the showdown tonight. Myself, Bobby Wow, and Josh Thomas, DFS Up North, will be breaking down specifically the Thursday night football game. We'll have specific breakdowns for Thursday night, Sunday night, and of course the Monday night contest. We'll figure out if that's a single or a double game contest we got to break down. I'll be back with John on the Wolfpack, where we dive into DFS angles. Anytime you have one of the top players in the world giving advice, I know I listen. You should listen if you want to get good at DFS and NFL DFS as well. And of course, every week I will be back on Saturday for DFS Army VIP subscribers with the Players Club podcast, where I will take it solo, bring everything together. We'll talk about cash games. We'll talk about single entry and 3 max. We'll get away from the Asphalt TNT tournament talk, which we will be doing elsewhere with all these other shows each week. So we look forward to an incredible NFL season this year with you guys. Hours and hours of hanging out together, breaking down games, watching games together. It's going to be awesome. And we'll be here the whole way through to help you guys and ourselves hopefully have a great football season. Remember to check out sportsbetarmy.com if you want sports gambling advice. John, you've got a course there for beginners. That's awesome. We don't just give out picks. We break down why. There are betting models there. They will show you the EV expectations against our models for all of these different sports, not just NFL. We've got WNBA going. We've got hockey. We've got every sport that you can think of going on right now. So it's a really exciting time to be part of the armies, so to speak.
U.S. Open tennis. It's a whole bunch of stuff going.
I see bets going through. I'm like, we're betting on Bundesliga soccer too now?
Yeah, sure,
okay.
Absolutely.
Bundesliga, whatever. You want to bet? You want action? The action is there. So
I mean, and you get in the chats, talk with the guys, Ryan, Anthony. Anthony's got a whole program that he's running now because he's managing funds for some people. So you're basically getting all of the bets that he puts in for the fund that he's managing, which is a sports betting fund.
Anthony's essentially running a sports betting hedge fund. You don't have to be in on the fund, but he is letting you know what the picks are for the fund. So lots of smart people with a lot of money are trusting Anthony with their bets, and he's sharing them with you. It's such an awesome tool. If you want to bet on sports, we've got a million different ways to get free months at Sports Bet Army, all these different sports books. If you're in a U.S. state that is legal, we've got a code for you to sign up for one of the books in your state, the best one with lots and lots of free offers. I'm not going to get into that right now, but lots and lots of free offers. DM us on Twitter at FFootballGeek, John at Statsational, or hit us up in Slack for your DFS Army sub, or hit us up with the contact info. We'll get you all the links to sign up and get free memberships, or you can just go to dfsarmy.com under free offer on the top of the page, and you can see all of the offers over there. Again, for John, myself, Geeks Vegas Lines, Week 1. We will see you guys next week for the next one.
Got the best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many.